Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host, with another marvelous video. This time, every 105 Superman variants explored, with detailed backstories. This looks like a job for Superman! A rocket shot into space as the core of the planet of Krypton starts falling apart. The crashing of the rocket in Smallville. A loving couple discovering an infant inside that rocket and taking him in. And that baby growing up to be the greatest superhero of all time. Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. To begin with, Superman was always a shot in the dark. His life could have taken any alternate route if the aforementioned events had happened a bit differently. So, my super friends, without further delay, let's explore every version of Superman that's ever existed in the DC metaverse. But before we begin, we have a small request. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channel. It's a small click from you, but to us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Superman, the very first incarnation. The very first Superman that was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster was actually a bald supervillain with telepathic powers. This short story was released in Science Fiction issue number 3 in January 1933. His name, Superman, was derived from the German word Übermensch, originally conceptualized by Friedrich Nietzsche, and then later used in many other known literatures. A poor drifter named Bill Dunn was randomly picked by the evil scientist Ernest Smalley from a bread line, and offered him proper food and clothing. All Smalley wanted in return was that Bill participated as a human subject in his experiment. Smalley gave his experimental drug to Bill, which gave Bill telepathic powers. Bill later became drunk with power and wanted to invade the entire world. However, the effects of the drug were temporary. Smalley wanted to kill Bill and get his powers for himself, but Bill used his power and killed Smalley instead. Later, his temporary powers slowly waned away and he retorts to his life of being a poor, hungry drifter again. The powers of this version of Superman were only based on telepathic abilities. Superman, Main Earth. The main version of Superman made his debut in Action Comics issue number 21 in 1938 and was created by writer Jerry Siegel and artist Joe Shuster. Rocketed to Earth as an infant from the distant exploding planet Krypton, Kal-El was adopted by the loving couple Jonathan and Martha Kent, who didn't have a child of their own. They named him Clark Kent and helped him hone his powers that he generated as an effect of the Earth's sun, charging and empowering every cell in his body. He attended school in Smallville, where he was a known athlete and star student. Upon passing school, he moved to Metropolis in search of a job and to use his powers to help mankind. He saved reporter Lois Lane from a helicopter crash and was immediately dubbed as Superman by her in the Daily Planet newspaper. Clark took a job in the Daily Planet as a mild-mannered reporter to keep his ears to the ground. But whenever any danger loomed upon Earth, he shed his garb and appeared as Superman, fighting for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. As Earth's gravity is weaker, Superman is gifted with the power of flight. The yellow sun of this solar system charges his cells and gives him superhuman strength, which is known to bring even the gods to their knees. And heat vision erupts from his eyes. He's got X-ray, electromagnetic spectrum, and telescopic vision and can freeze anything with his Arctic breath. He can hear everything all at once with his super hearing, but perhaps the best quality in Superman that makes him the archetype of a superhero is his compassionate and loving nature for his fellow humankind. His only known weaknesses are the rock fragment from his home planet named Kryptonite and magic. Superman from pre-Flashpoint Earth 2. The Superman from Earth 2 was a diverted reality that was created after the Golden Age, when there was a confusion of Superman helming from the war days and being a member of Justice Society as well as the Justice League. With his age not being addressed in the comic books, writer Dennis O'Neil broke the character into two Earths. He showed that the wartime old Superman was actually Kal-El, who came to Earth 2, similarly from the planet Krypton, and grew up in Smallville. He was reintroduced in Justice League issue number 73 in 1969. As the stories of the main Earth Superman went on, the Earth 2 Superman also continued his adventures on his Earth. He eventually got married to Lois Lane and grew old. They never had any children. During the Crisis on Infinite Earths, he was recruited by the Monitor to fight against the Anti-Monitor. In the end, when all the Earths merged to form a single reality, Alexander Luthor of Earth 2 kept him, Superboy Prime, and Lois alive in a limbo universe where Lois became ill. Superboy Prime broke open the Pocket Universe and the Earth 2 Superman arrived on main Earth during the Infinite Crisis event. He was critically injured and eventually died during the final fight with Superboy Prime. Kal-El had the same powers as that of main Earth Superman. However, with old age and as an adverse effect of staying in the Pocket Universe, he was shown to be significantly weaker. Although he was willing to fight, he couldn't hold off against Superboy Prime and was killed in battle. Black Lantern Kal-El. Black Lantern Kal-El made his first full appearance in Blackest Night, Superman issue number 1 in October 2009. He was created by James Robinson and Eddie Barrows. After the Earth 2 Superman, Kal-El from pre-Flashpoint era died fighting Superboy Prime during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. He was resurrected as a Black Lantern zombie during the Blackest Night event. One of the black rings that arrived on Earth through Edward Hand latched onto the corpse of Kal-El and brought him back. On his return, the first thing that he did was attack Metropolis. He started a horrific massacre across Metropolis, killing people as per their emotional spectrum and powering up his black ring. Superman and Connor tracked him down and tried to stop him. He teamed up with Black Lantern Lois Lane and kidnapped Superman's mother Martha. A vicious battle ensued, causing destruction all over Smallville. Connor managed to take Black Lantern's Psycho Pirate's mask and made Kal-El feel all the range of emotions. His Black Lantern ring was overridden and he was switched off, but Black Lantern Lois gave away her ring to reanimate him. Later, his connection to the Black Ring was severed by Dr. Fate and Mr. Terrific's machine, and his corpse was completely destroyed. Black Lantern Superman had all the abilities of Kal-El from Earth 2, together with his regenerative powers. Kingdom Come Superman. This version of Superman appeared in the Elseworlds story Kingdom Come, released in 1996 and was written by Mark Waid and painted by Alex Ross. In the story, Lois Lane and all the employees of Daily Planet were killed by the Joker. Although heartbroken, Superman tried to bring Joker by the book, but the Joker was killed by a new superhero named Magog. Losing faith in the ways of an increasingly violent breed of new superheroes, Superman went into seclusion in the Fortress of Solitude. However, Magog's mission to bring in the parasite failed when he ripped open Captain Atom's containment suit and caused a nuclear blast, destroying Midwest America. Persuaded by Wonder Woman, Superman returned to bring order and form a new Justice League. Superman gathered an array of heroes to fight alongside him. He helped lock up other violent superheroes into the prison named Gulag to recondition them. But Luthor ordered a brainwashed Captain Marvel to break open the Gulag. A war ensued between the new Justice League and the prisoners of Gulag. In order to stop the war, the USA planned a nuclear attack on the Gulag. Batman and Wonder Woman joined in to contain the fight. Superman was blooded up with Captain Marvel's magic thunderbolts, but finally convinced him to take a side. As Superman was going to stop the final warhead, Marvel sacrificed himself to detonate it mid-air, but not before it wiped out almost a third of the superheroes. Superman, losing faith in humankind, attacked the UN building, but was convinced to act like a human by Minister Norman McKay. In the end, Superman started the process of repairing the farmlands in the Midwest that were destroyed by Magog's onslaught. He started a family with Wonder Woman and appointed Batman as his unborn kid's godfather. His powers and abilities are the same as that of Superman from main Earth. Superman from Injustice, Gods Among Us. Superman is the main antagonist of the Injustice Gods Among Us comic series. The series was released in March 2013. In this alternate universe, Superman's pregnant wife Lois was kidnapped and Jimmy Olsen was killed by the Joker. When Superman tracked them down, he faced Doomsday there. It was actually Superman's hallucination from inhaling Scarecrow's fear gas laced with kryptonite. It was actually his wife, Lois. Not knowing this, he pushed Lois into space. Then he came to his senses and realized that Lois had stopped breathing, so had his unborn child. He brought Lois's body back to Earth and was devastated by the grief. What he didn't know was that there was an atomic bomb connected to Lois's heart. When her heart stopped, the bomb exploded, taking the whole of Metropolis with it. Superman became mad with anger and drove his fist through Joker's chest and killed him. Then he became a tyrant leader and tried to bring the entire world under his strict leash so that there would be no more crime. Batman was the one who started a resistance against Superman. Dick and Alfred stayed with Batman while Damian, Wonder Woman, Flash and many other heroes joined Superman's army. Batman and his resistance fought Superman for 6 long years. In the end, Batman and Luthor connect to the Justice League of Main Earth and the evil Superman is stopped by the Main Earth's Superman. This version of Superman has got completely similar powers and abilities as the Main Earth's Superman. He uses a yellow lantern ring from Sinestro Corps to power himself additionally. Stan Lee's Superman. This version of Superman debuted in Just Imagine, Superman issue number 1, released in November 2001. He was created by Stan Lee and John Buscema. On his home planet, Solden was a lawbringer. He underwent genetic upgrades in favor of utilizing his brute strength and guile to put an end to crime. While pursuing his wife's murderer, Gondor Godok, he arrived on Earth on a spaceship. He gained new powers due to Earth's lesser gravity. He used his newfound abilities to help people and stop crime, and voiced his idea to create a better space program on Earth. Lois Lane discovered Solden and became his manager and dubbed him Superman. He took over the secret identity of Clark Kent and continued his quest against crime as Superman. Meanwhile, Godok had kidnapped a Chinese diplomat and framed the US government with the help of Reverend Dark. Eventually, Superman was able to stop them and gain fame and respect. While Solden has almost all the abilities of main Earth Superman, he's only able to leap tall distances due to lower gravity instead of flying. However, his strength is also a bit more nerfed down than the original Superman. Overman from Earth 10. This version of Superman debuted in issue number 52 in July 2007. He was created by Grant Morrison and J.G. Jones. In this reality, the rocket of Kal-El crashed into Nazi-occupied Sudetenland in the year 1938. The Nazis used Kryptonian technologies from the rocket to win the war. He took up the moniker of Overman and became a hero in a utopian reality built on human sorrows and sufferings. Overman's genetic materials were used to create his antithesis named Anti-Human and Overgirl, whom he loved as a cousin. Overman helped monitor Zillo Valor in saving the multiverse in return for Overgirl's whereabouts, who went missing during the final crisis. It was Overman who saved multiple worlds from the Echo of Midnight and joined the group of Supermen from across the multiverse to stop the vampire monitor, Mandrag. As he's from Krypton, his powers and abilities are the same as that of Superman from main Earth, that include superhuman strength, invulnerability, flight, heat vision, super hearing, and Arctic breath. Ultraman from Earth 3. Ultraman first debuted in Justice League of America, issue number 29 in August 1964, and was created by Gardner Fox and Mike Zakowski. This version of Superman encountered Kryptonite while his rocket ship was on its way to Earth 3. The exposure gave him an array of powers. Upon growing up in this reality, he leaned more towards violence and followed an idealism of destruction. He met other superheroes who also loved death and destruction and formed the crime syndicate with them. He consumed kryptonite in order to gain new superpowers, even when sometimes his body went into shock. Once upon consumption of kryptonite, he enhanced his vision so much that he saw Earth 1, then planned to attack it with the crime syndicate. He held his might alone against the combined attack of Superman of Earth 1 and Earth 2. He died along with his Earth when the antimatter wave destroyed it during Crisis on Infinite Earths. He was resurrected post-Flashpoint along with the other crime syndicate members. Ultraman gains new powers whenever he eats and absorbs kryptonite. He has superhuman strength, invulnerability, and flight. He once developed the power of interdimensional vision and travel. He can create whirlwinds with his breath and target freeze his opponents. Ultraman from Antimatter Universe. This version of Superman first debuted in The Brave and the Bold, issue number 11 in May 2008. The issue was written by Mark Waid and drawn by Jerry Ordway. Lieutenant Clark Kent was a human astronaut from this antimatter Earth. While on a journey to hyperspace, his ship collapsed. An unknown alien race took him in, and in an attempt to reconstruct his body, they altered him at a genetic level, giving him superpowers, just like Superman, but also messed up his mind. He led the Antimatter Crime Syndicate. He led his team to kidnap people from all 52 matter universes in an attempt to repair his own Earth. However, he was defeated by Superman and banished to an alternate dimension. Later, he joined the League of Supermen to defeat Mandrag, but he was converted into Mandrag's vampiric minion. He was seemingly killed by the combined forces of Supermen in the end. His superpowers depend on closeness and subjection to anti-kryptonite, from which, if he's separated for a long time, he starts losing his powers. But when he came back during Final Crisis, this limitation seemed to have been retconned. He has all the powers of Superman, and once propelled the 70-mile-long Echo of Midnight destroyer and held the infinite Book of Limbo alone. When he was turned into a vampire, he generated additional vampiric senses. Ultraman from Earth 43. This version of Ultraman first appeared in the Multiversity Guidebook issue number 1 in March 2015. This version belongs to Earth 43, where all of the superheroes in the Justice League have changed into vampires. This version is different from the Ultraman of the Antimatter universe, who's turned into a vampire by Mandrag. The vampiric contagion on Earth 43 started with Batman during the Batman Dracula Red Reign story, where he was bitten by Dracula and turned into a vampire. Although it was a standalone story and Batman died in the end, it was later retconned to show that Batman was still alive and somehow all the Justice Leaguers turned into vampires, including Ultraman of this Earth. He was abducted by Prophecy, who wanted to steal his vampiric superpowers, but he was freed by the Justice Incarnate team. He once tried to kill Wally West of a different Earth, but was knocked down by Wally instead, who used wooden stakes to pin him down. Similar to the previous vampire Ultraman, this version has all the powers of Superman and the added powers of a vampire.
Hearing axe for you.
Superman from Justice League, Gods and Monsters. This version of Superman debuted in the DC animated movie Justice League, Gods and Monsters in 2015. This version of Superman was the son of General Zod and Lara Lor-Van. He was genetically engineered in the Kryptonian birth matrix. When Jor-El tried to kill them, Zod created his war machine from drilling into Krypton's core. He stopped Jor-El from implanting his genetic code into the Matrix and instead used his. While Krypton exploded, he shot the rocket containing the Matrix into space. The rocket crashed near the US-Mexico border, where the Guerras found the infant in the birth matrix and raised him as Hernan Guerra. He grew up with his sister Valentina, but accidentally rendered her paraplegic while fooling around. Heartbroken, he stopped using his power altogether. He didn't even save a crashing aeroplane and let everyone die. He left for a soul-searching journey and returned to see his sister happily married. Valentina sparked a sense of hope in him, and he decided to use his powers to help others by taking the mantle of Superman. Hernan has superhuman strength, agility, flight, heat vision, microscopic and telescopic visions. He also possesses super hearing and Arctic breath. However, his looks drastically vary from the traditional look of Superman and resemble more of General Zod. Superman, Red Sun, Earth 30. This version of Superman debuted in the Kingdom No. 2 in February 1999. Earth's sun went red and changed the physiology of its inhabitants and destabilized Earth. Jor-El and Lara sent their infant son Kal-El in a time-traveling rocket to the past, where it landed in Soviet Ukraine, ruled by Stalin. Kal-El grew up helping humanity with his powers and attained a place in Stalin's preferred circle. In an attempt to create a new Superman, Luthor gave birth to the monstrosity named Bizarro, who was stopped by Superman. Superman dedicated himself to create a better world when Stalin was murdered by his son Pyotr. He became so obsessed that he decided on interfering with the free will of all humankind for their safety. Batman tried to stop Superman and injured Wonder Woman and revealed Pyotr's plans to him. He even failed to stop Brainiac when he turned the city of Stalingrad microscopic. Brainiac attempted a full-scale invasion, and Luthor went into an all-out war with Superman. Superman was eventually stopped by Lois Lane Luthor. In the end, Superman seemingly sacrificed himself while detonating Brainiac's mothership. He was later shown to be alive and attending the public hero Luthor's funeral. It was later revealed that Jor-El was a descendant of Luthor, making Superman his descendant too. This version of Superman also has the same powers as that of the Superman from Main Earth. Superman from DC 1 Million. This version of Superman made his debut in DC 1 Million issue number 4 in November 1998 and was created by Grant Morrison and Val Simics. The story is set on Main Earth, wherein he was rocketed from Krypton and taken in by the Kents and became Superman and married Lois Lane. In the possible future, as time went on, his parents died, so did Lois, and so did his friends and other superheroes from the Justice League. He created the Superman dynasty and passed on his mantle to his descendant, Superman Secundus, and left Earth. He traveled through time till the turn of the 700th century and gained an array of new superpowers in his journey. He formed the Covenant of Superman and then moved inside the sun into his Fortress of Solitude. He re-emerged after 15,000 years and had become an extension of the sun himself, with infinite levels of power. He helped Green Lantern and Kal Kent to destroy the anti-sun Solaris. He used the DNA sample in Solaris's core to resurrect Lois Lane and then lived for an eternity. Since this is a possible future of Main Earth Superman, all his powers remain the same till the day he left Earth. His tenure of 15,000 years in the Earth's sun developed his powers to unknown and incalculable levels. He's known to eclipse the strength of Kal Kent, who is enormously strong and has a speed that's many times faster than light. He's also able to bequeath his powers and create other meta-humans like him. This Elseworlds story was written by J.M. DeMatteis and drawn by Eduardo Barreto and was released in 1993. In this story, Kal-El rocketed from the planet Krypton and crash-landed in Gotham. Thomas and Martha Wayne found his ship and adopted him, naming him Bruce. The night Thomas and Martha were killed by Joe Chill, Bruce went out of control and incinerated Chill with his heat vision. Driven by anxiety, fear and grief, he hid himself in the caves below the manor in seclusion. One day, when robbers attacked the manor, Bruce used his powers to save Alfred. He learnt of his alien origin when Alfred showed him the rocket ship in which he arrived on Earth. Bruce found his calling and took over the control of Wayne Corporations from Lex Luthor, who was trying to take it over. During the night, he fought crime as Batman. Later, Bruce was heavily criticized by Lois Lane, when he savagely beat up a few thugs while saving Lois from them. Later, Lois was kidnapped by Luthor, who was driven insane and transformed into the Joker with white screen and green hair from an accident. Batman battled Luthor and his army and successfully stopped him. When Lois convinced Bruce that he had to turn into a symbol of hope rather than fear, Bruce took up a new moniker to protect the world, Superman. The powers of this version of Superman are the same as that of Main Earth counterpart. John Henry Irons, the Man of Steel. John Henry Irons, aka Steel, debuted in The Adventures of Superman issue number 500 in June 1993. He was created by the writer-artist duo Louise Simonson and artist John Bogdanove. Dr. John Henry Irons was a top-notch weapons engineer at Amatech Industries on Main Earth. He was horrified when the BG-60, a potent man-portable energy cannon he'd invented, got into the wrong hands and was used to slaughter innocent people. John eventually arrived in Metropolis after faking his death. He was saved by Superman during a construction accident, where he advised John to live a life worth saving. When Doomsday attacked Metropolis and killed Superman, Irons constructed and wore a powerful armor suit in honor of Superman to stop Doomsday. Armed with new armaments and wielding a sledgehammer, he took on the mantle of Steel and started his journey as a superhero with Superman's emblem on his chest. John is a gifted athlete who frequently demonstrates a high level of strength. He's a brilliant engineer and has a gifted mind. He also has powered armor that gives him the ability to fly and improved strength and endurance. He could grow himself to enormous proportions and had godlike power and durability while wearing the Entropy Aegis. He could also fly thanks to his energy wings, freely traverse time and space, and unleash energy blasts that would break a target down to shreds. He became quite violent, nevertheless, and his soul was being gradually erased by the Aegis. So he denounced the Aegis and got back to his usual armor. Cyborg Superman. The Cyborg Superman debuted in The Adventures of Superman issue number 500 in June 1993 and was created by Dan Jurgens. Hank Henshaw and his friends formed the Excalibur crew and enrolled for a radiation experiment under LexCorp. However, due to a solar flare blast, they were mutated. They traveled to Earth and were confronted by Superman. Superman wasn't able to help Henshaw as his body decayed away. However, his consciousness lived on and transferred itself into the machines. It eventually jumped into Superman's birthing matrix and fled, making a small rocket ship. He reappeared as a cyborg Superman after the original Superman was killed by Doomsday. He proclaimed that he was the original Superman back from the dead. He passed all the tests at Star Labs, which confirmed he was the original Superman. But with time, his intentions were revealed. He fatally injured the Eradicator and destroyed the entire coast city with the help of Mongul. He was eventually stopped by the original Superman when he returned from the dead. After regaining his powers, Superman drove his hands through Cyborg Superman's robotic chest and destroyed him. Apart from displaying Superman-like powers and abilities, he was a technomorph who could create and morph any part of his cybernetic half to create weapons of any sort or to communicate with anything technological. He also possesses genius-level intellect, as he's a renowned scientist. Eradicator Superman. The Eradicator Superman debuted in Action Comics issue number 687 in June 1993 and was created by Roger Stern, Jackson Geiss, and Dennis Rodier. An almost extinct alien race created containment devices to preserve their culture and shot them into space. They arrived on Krypton, but were killed by the Kryptonian Chem-El. He corrupted one device and changed its mission to preserve his idea of Kryptonian culture by destroying others. This device came to be known as the Eradicator. This machine arrived on Earth in time. Its consciousness was rekindled on Superman's death at the hands of Doomsday. He took energy from Superman's corpse and created himself a body similar to Superman and believed that he was the original one. He was violent in nature and believed in eliminating his opponents rather than behaving like the actual Superman. When Superman's body was restored, the Eradicator learned of its true nature and his purpose. He sacrificed himself while giving back Superman his powers in the final fight with Cyborg. The Eradicator Superman's powers were nowhere similar to the original Superman. He lacked Superman's heat vision and shot energy blasts from his hands. He wore a visor as his eyes were still adjusting to the light on Earth. His physical strength was also not on the same level of Superman, as he was easily beaten black and blue by the Cyborg Superman. All-Star Superman. This Superman debuted in All-Star Superman issue number 1 in November 2005 and was created by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. In a possible future, Superman rescued a team from an exploration mission to the Sun, which was sabotaged by Lex Luthor. The exposure to solar radiation gave him massive amounts of power, but also mutated his cells. Luthor was sentenced to death, but Superman was diagnosed to die within a year. He decided to keep his imminent death a secret and revealed his secret identity to Lois Lane. He created the Super Elixir and transferred his powers to her for 24 hours and let her join him as Superwoman to stop a monster attack in Metropolis. He answered the unanswerable question, chained the Chronovore, saved Earth from Bizarro Home, returned from the Underverse, created life, cured cancer, and wrote down the idea of creating a new Superman. He thus completed his 12 labors and his last will and testament. But Luthor escaped execution and turned the sun blue with Solaris. Superman managed to defeat it and return to life, long enough to defeat Luthor. He converted himself into solar radio consciousness to repair the sun and maintain its machinery. The story ended with the reveal of a new project by Dr. Leo Quintum, with a door bearing the number 2, replacing the usual S emblem of Superman. The powers of this version of Superman are the same as main Earth Superman, which increases multifold along with his intelligence with the exposure to solar radiation. The fifth-dimensional Superman. Klizizek made his first appearance in All-Star Superman number 6, Episode 6, Funeral in Smallville, and was created by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. Like Mixes Piddalik, Klizizek Kilsenspulks was an imp Superman from the fifth dimension. He belonged to the distant bloodline of Kal-El. For 10 centuries, Klizizek, along with Kal Kent, unknown Superman, had hunted the Chronovore. When they sensed the presence of the Chronovore in the All-Star Superman reality, they came there to stop it. He posed as a circus strongman midget before he revealed his team to Superman. He gave Superman the 5D vision so that he was able to see the Chronovore. He used his hyperpoon on the Chronovore to chain it until the other members of the Superman squad arrived with the Tesseract cage to contain it. Klizizek, aided by the other Supermen, were finally able to contain the Chronovore. However, Jonathan Kent of the All-Star reality died of a heart attack. Klizizek later opened the lighting door and the Supermen returned to AD 853-500. In the 67th century, when Superman Purple married Quinto Queen Gulzenspulk of Zerf, the next of the intertwined bloodline was bestowed with Kryptonian superpowers and also magic and 5D vision. He wasn't shown displaying Kryptonian powers explicitly, as he flew on a cloud, used fifth-dimensional weapons, and could open a portal and also alter reality to an extent of giving Superman 5D vision so that he could show his thoughts. Cosmic Armor Superman. This version made its debut in Final Crisis Superman Beyond 3D issue number 2 by Grant Morrison and Doug in March 2009. Cosmic Armor Superman was a unique and omni-powered iteration that was created to confront the threat of Mandrak the Dark Monitor, who threatened to destroy all life and hope in fiction. To counter anti-thoughts, the Monitor Dax Norvu brought the embodiment of heroism, Superman, to comic book limbo and fused him with Ultraman from Antimatter Universe to create Cosmic Armor, aka Thought Robot. Monitor Ouija Dell welcomed him to the Hall of Monitors, where he learned about the monitors. The Thought Robot was unrivaled in strength and often broke the fourth wall. He defeated Mandrak by speaking directly to the readers and getting powered by their thoughts. The armor acted as a plot of the story itself. Made of pure thought, the robot can match and better any adversary's power and strength. It's able to self-heal from harm, becoming even more durable and larger when facing formidable challenges. It can perceive space and other dimensions, allowing it to resist attempts to erase it from existence. Its might and swiftness exceed all imagination and are not restricted by the boundaries of other beings across the multiverse, and it has the power to control Limbo itself. These strengths come with zero weaknesses, as the armor is engineered to face and conquer any and all threats to itself and the multiverse, emerging victorious. Justice Lord Superman. This version of Superman debuted in the Justice League animated series episode A Better World in 2003. The origin of this version remains the same as that of his main Earth counterpart. His downfall started when he and the other superheroes attacked the Oval Office to apprehend the corrupt president Lex Luthor. Luthor convinced Superman that with his no-killing code, he has actually helped Luthor over the years. Believing this to be true in his heart, he obliterated Luthor with his heat vision. Although severely psychologically scarred, Superman worked on imposing his harsh regime throughout Earth, branding it as peace. He lobotomized all criminals and supervillains and incapacitated them. He formed the Justice Lords and came to be referred to as Lord Superman. He stopped free press and suppressed all of the world's governments. He assured that this was a temporary action, but had no haste of ending his regime anytime sooner. He traveled to the main animated Earth and warned the original League about Luthor. However, his true colors were revealed soon. Superman and Luthor from main animated Earth worked together to incapacitate Lord by draining all of his powers. He was sent back to his own Earth along with the other Justice Lords. Lord Superman has the same powers as the animated universe Superman, who is starred in Bruce Timmverse of DC's animation, which are essentially the same as that of main Earth Superman. Kal-El from Flashpoint Timeline. This version of Superman made his first appearance in Flashpoint Project Superman issue number 1, written by Scott Snyder and drawn by Gene Ha. This version of Superman came into existence in 2011 when the Flash from main Earth created the alternate Flashpoint reality in an attempt to stop Reverse Flash from killing his mother. Here, Kal-El was one of the many children who were rocketed to different planets from Krypton in order to fulfill a planetary invasion by Jor-El. Kal's rocket was found by the US military and he was taken in for experimenting in order to create a new breed of super soldiers. challenges. He was designated as Subject 1 and was secretly trained by Subject 0 to hone his powers. He attempted an escape but was locked up again and grew up in solitary. Years later, Flash, Cyborg, and Thomas Wayne Batman freed him. He later fought Enchantress, Wonder Woman, and Emperor Aquaman in the Amazon Atlantean War until Flash restored the universe and he was expunged from reality. However, it was established in Flashpoint Beyond series that his reality still exists, where he's now Superman and fights for humanity. As he grew up locked away from the sun, he was a frail young man when he was first introduced, but later, when he absorbed the power of the sun, he stood high with the same capabilities as the main Earth Superman, just a bit leaner in appearance. Superman from New 52, Main Earth. In order to bring everything back to the way it was, Flash ran into the time stream again to stop himself from creating the Flashpoint. He was successful, but the entire DC universe was rebooted. The New 52 was born, and so was born a new incarnation of Main Earth Superman. This version of Superman was essentially the same as the pre-New 52 Superman, but younger and full of angst, and had a significant lack of wisdom as he was still discovering the world. His mother Martha was killed in a car accident on the night of his prom, and his father Jonathan died of a heart attack shortly after. Being a loner, Clark moved to Metropolis and started fighting the corrupt with his powers. He helped during the zero-year Gotham City flood. He fought and saved Earth from the clutches of the evil Kryptonian Ha'el. He was infected with the Doomsday virus, but was able to clear himself of its rage and kill Doomsday. He stopped using his Clark Kent identity altogether. He fell in love with the New 52 Wonder Woman, and they both became a power couple. He was turned into the God of Strength when he was thrown into the fire pits of Apocalypse during the Darkseid War event. Upon being restored, he found out that he was dying from the radiation. After a rough battle with the metahuman named Swan, he succumbed to his death and was reduced to ashes as he burned from the inside. This Superman had the same powers like pre-New 52 Superman, but was a bit weaker than him. Multiple events weakened his cellular structure over time, and he died from them in the end. Superman from New 52 Earth 2. A new version of Earth 2 Superman was introduced in the New 52 series. This Superman was named Kal-El, like the main version, and is much younger than the original Kal-El. The new Earth 2 Superman has two surviving foster parents, John and Martha Kent, who are still alive. He debuted in Earth 2 issue number 1 in July 2012 and was created by James Robinson and Nicola Scott. This Superman was thought to have perished along with Batman and Wonder Woman while fighting off an invasion from Apocalypse led by Steppenwolf. However, he was revealed to have survived and allied with Apocalypse, taking the moniker Brutale. He was snapped out of Darkseid's control by his wife, Lois Lane, aka Earth 2 Red Tornado. After a battle with Earth 2 Green Lantern Alan Scott and Val Zod, it was discovered that he was actually a Bizarro-type clone. With his power waning, he was destroyed by Lois using a cyclone blast from her hand. He was later shown to be kept in stasis by the forces of Apocalypse. He sacrificed himself in the end in the fight against Earth 2 and Darkseid's forces. He was given a proper burial by Val Zod and Power Girl. This version of Superman had essentially the same powers as the main Earth Superman. Val Zod Superman from New 52 Earth 2. Val Zod debuted in Earth 2 issue number 19 in March 2014 and was created by Tom Taylor, Nicola Scott, and Robson Rocha. Val Zod's parents were executed in Krypton for their crimes, and he was left as an orphan. He befriended Kara Zor-El, who was also an orphan. Both were saved from Krypton's destruction by Jor-El and Lara and journeyed to Earth 2 after the Flashpoint event. Val Zod's parents taught him that violence was the dumbest solution, making him a pacifist. Upon arriving on Earth, he was taken in by Terry Sloan, who promised to protect him from the outside world. When the forces of Apocalypse attacked, he helped the superheroes of Earth 2 in their fight against them. He rose up as the new Superman and defeated the Apocalyptian warrior named Brutale, who was revealed to be a clone of Superman, and fought him till Brutale was reduced to ashes. During the Earth 2 World's End event, he fought with other young superheroes of Earth 2 to destroy the Apocalyptian fire pits and fought against the fury of war. He fought the dead clones and helped bury the Superman of Earth 2 when he sacrificed himself in the final battle. Having the same Kryptonian physiology as the main Earth Superman, Val Zod has all the powers and abilities that Superman has. Brutale from New 52 Earth 2. Brutale debuted in Earth 2 issue number 14 in September 2013 and was created by James Robinson and Nicola Scott. In the beginning of the Earth 2 storyline in 2012, it was shown that Superman fell in that battle with Steppenwolf and Apocalypse's forces. However, it was later revealed that Darkseid had created a perfect clone of Kal-El from Earth 2, and he was evil and working for Darkseid as his number one henchman, Brutale. He fought the New Wonders and defeated them, killing Steppenwolf in the process. He then attacked the World's Army's Arkham base and defeated Dr. Fate before continuing his assault on Washington, D.C. and incapacitating all the superheroes of Earth 2. He discovered the Space Ark, but killed all of the passengers inside. After discovering that there was another Kryptonian, he went to Gotham and clashed with Val-Zod, who realized that Brutal was not the real Superman. Brutal was stopped by Lois Lane and they went to the Kent farm. In the end, Val-Zod engaged in a fierce battle against Brutal, where he discovered that Brutal was a clone and was falling apart. Lois hit it with her tornado blast and killed Brutal. Brutal's powers were similar to that of Superman from Main Earth, but since he was a clone, the overuse of his powers disintegrated him. Rebirth Era Superman. When the Convergence event ended, the pre-Flashpoint Main Earth Superman appeared in the New 52 world, where the younger Superman was still in action. This Superman kept his son John and wife hidden from the world and operated in secrecy. When the New 52 Superman and Lois died, this Superman took over his place in order to let this world always have a Superman. He joined the Justice League and worked alongside them, although being from a different timeline. Meanwhile, Mxyzptlk freed himself from Mr. Oz's cage and took over the persona of Clark Kent. When he saw the pre-Flashpoint Clark's family, he was reminded who he was. He remembered that Superman didn't save him from Mr. Oz, so he abducted John Kent and worked on burning everything out of existence that was related to the original Superman as revenge. It was revealed that Superman and Lois were made of blue energy, while the New 52 ones were made of red energy, so they'll never feel whole. After a lot of fighting and tampering with the energies and changing back and forth from pre-Flashpoint Superman and Lois to the New 52 versions, the energies merged and created a complete Superman and Lois. The pre-Flashpoint and New 52 Superman and Lois merged and created a new merged timeline, and reality solidified around them, where there was only one Superman, and the entire Silver Age chronology held good. This version is the one and only Superman from Main Earth, returned to his full glory. Superman from Doomsday Clock Era. After the Rebirth Era, it was revealed that Barry Allen only facilitated the Flashpoint event. He wasn't the main person to cause the New 52 to exist. The main person who was responsible for creating the Flashpoint and the creating New 52 universe was Dr. Manhattan from the Watchmen universe. In the end of the Watchmen story, he traveled to the DC universe and saw a vision where an enraged Superman charged at him and everything going black after that. Intrigued by the vision, he started witnessing the multiple crises and shifts in timeline in the DC metaverse. He experimented with reality and changed it multiple times over the course of DC history. He eventually met Superman and his vision came true to the point where Superman charged at him with mighty rage, but Superman actually punched a villain and saved Manhattan. Superman begged Manhattan to help him save everyone. Manhattan finally realized that Superman was the main driving force behind the entire DC metaverse. Whenever there's a crisis and there's danger to Superman, time was shifted or rewritten, and the story of Superman started again, saving the universe from any crisis that has befallen. And this happened in prehistoric times and will happen again in the future. Superman will always save everyone. Inspired beyond imagination, Manhattan reset the reality to undo all the changes that he'd done. Superman's mother and father were brought back and integrated into reality. He gave the last of his powers to restore the Watchmen Earth, and gave a part of his power to Mime and Marionette's son. He named the kid Clark after Superman, and then he faded away, leaving him at Silk Spectre's doorstep. Clark was placed as the possible Superman for the Watchmen universe. Superman's reality has changed multiple times over the years on Main Earth, but this event restored his relative reality similar to the pre-Crisis era, and also placed a possible Superman for the Watchmen universe. Superman: The Dark Side. This Elseworlds limited series ran from August to October 1998 and was written by John Francis Moore and drawn by Kieran Dwyer. In Superman: The Dark Side, the ship of Kal-El landed on Apokolips instead of Earth. He was brought up like a son and a soldier by Darkseid, who taught him the ways of anger and war. Kal-El turned into a follower of Darkseid and wanted to further Darkseid's plan of destruction of New Genesis. Darkseid christened him Superman, his merciless death dealer. During an attack on New Genesis, Superman was brought to the Source Wall by Highfather, where Highfather showed him his Kryptonian origins and also told him about the prophecy of how he's the savior of Apokolips. Highfather transported Superman to Earth, where he met Lois Lane and fell in love with her. He made friends and learnt the value of compassion and helping others, but Darkseid invaded Earth and took him captive. Superman escaped and attacked Darkseid with the new gods, but was no match against him. Wounded fatally by Dr. Bedlam, Lightray, with his dying breath, transferred his solar energy to Superman. Superman became charged up with extreme strength and energy and defeated Darkseid. The new gods found their new home on Earth, with Superman as the new champion of the planet. In this version, although Superman is a whole lot brutal to begin with, his strength is significantly lesser. He's not been shown to display his heat vision or Arctic breath or super hearing. However, he has the power of flight. His strength was enhanced when his solar suit was charged up by a dying light ray. Superman X. Kal-El, aka Superman X, debuted in the episode The Man from the Edge of Tomorrow, Part 1, on September 22, 2007, in the Legion of Superheroes TV series. The original Superman was cloned in the 41st century by digitized Gestalt inventor K3NT. This clone was programmed to possess all of Superman's strengths sans any of his weaknesses. While fighting Imperiex, he was overpowered, so he decided to save his future and time travel back to the 31st century where he met the Legion of Superheroes. He warned them that Imperiex was going to kill them all. Together they faced the might of Imperiex and other villains whom Imperiex had freed. They successfully defeated Imperiex, and Kel also saved a baby named Abel, who was a target for K3NT in the past as his technology was the one who would free Imperiex in the future. Kel later became a full-time member of the Legion. Kel essentially has all the powers of Superman. Moreover, he's not affected by kryptonite. His body is able to synthesize kryptonite, and he can shoot energy blasts from his hands. He can create force fields and is also able to do some basic magic that he picked up from the wizard Zix. Superman Blue, Superman Red. In 1998, Superman was shown to display energy-based capabilities in the comic books when he was temporarily deprived of solar energy to charge his cells. Superman himself became an energy being who had to be contained in a blue containment suit whenever he turned his powers on. However, while facing off Cyborg Superman and Toyman in Superman Red, Superman Blue one-shot, he split into two energy beings, one blue and another red. While the blue Superman was more of a strategist, the red Superman was the one always acting before thinking and punching his way out of any problem. With time, the two became more apart, although they shared the same love for Lois Lane. However, after the Battle of the Millennium Giants, the two Supermen merged into a singular being as their energy-based electromagnetic powers dissipated. The strength of Superman was split into two when Red and Blue appeared. The heat visions were bolts of red and blue electricity. They held onto their power of flight, but other powers were all energy-based. Superman from Justice League 3000. This version of Superman debuted in Justice League 3000 issue number 1 in February 2014. This issue was written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis and drawn by Howard Porter. In the 31st century, Ariel Masters and the Wonder Twins cloned the original members of the Justice League, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Green Lantern. The goal was to combat the Five, a fearsome group that seemed unbeatable. They used DNA from volunteers' bodies to recreate the League, but the process was imperfect, resulting in incorrect physical traits, missing powers, and memory loss for the entire team. The procedure had the greatest impact on Kal-El, causing him to lose some of his powers and altering his personality, even when he took up the mantle as the Superman of the new Justice League. Despite overcoming the Five, the League faced a new threat from Lady Styx's Scullions, and unfortunately, Superman was killed during the battle. Due to a genetic flaw while cloning, this version of Superman lacks the power of flight or heat vision. Superboy, Connor Kent. Connor made his first appearance in The Adventures of Superman, issue number 500 in June 1993, and was created by Carl Kessel and Tom Grummett. After the death of Superman at the hands of Doomsday, Cadmus director Paul Westfield worked on creating a new Superman. He started experimenting on human clones. Westfield used the bioelectric aura that protected Superman's body and used it to give the power of tactile telekinesis to the clones. Where all others failed, the 13th clone grew into a teenage boy with most of the powers of Superman due to the tactile telekinesis. The clone was artificially matured and he was introduced as a teenager to the readers. A brash kid with a big mouth and a hell lot of attitude. He decided to go with the name of Superman at first, but then slowly settled with the name Superboy. He got the civilian identity of Connor Kent and joined the Teen Titans. It was later revealed that Superboy's human DNA was from Lex Luthor. He was killed by Superboy Prime during Infinite Crisis, but was later resurrected during Final Crisis Legion of Three Earths. Superboy has all the powers of Superman, and together with that, he has the power of tactile telekinesis. He's able to move and splinter objects with his touch. He can extend the telekinetic field to protect others and make them invulnerable. He can also touch any surface and freeze the people who are standing on it. Superboy Prime. Superboy Prime debuted in DC Comics Presents issue number 87 in November 1985 and was created by Elliot S. Maggin and Kurt Swan. Kal-El was teleported to Prime Earth when Krypton was destroyed. He appeared in New England where he was brought up by Jerry and Naomi Kent. His Earth had no superheroes but had comics all about them. He was named Clark after the comic book superhero Superman. One fateful night, when he dressed up as Superman and went to the coast with his girlfriend Laurie, a big tidal wave appeared. Just then, Superman from Main Earth arrived. Just then, Clark's Kryptonian DNA kicked in and he discovered his powers. Although Superman was grief-stricken from the recent death of Supergirl, he helped Clark in stopping the tidal wave and showed him quickly how to use his powers. Superboy Prime helped Superman from Earth 1 and 2 in their fight against Anti-Monitor during Crisis on Infinite Earths. Then, when the new Earth formed, Alexander Luthor took him, Superman and Lois from Earth 2 into a pocket universe where they survived. After many years, during the countdown to Infinite Crisis, Prime escaped the Pocket Universe by reality-altering punches and changing DC Universe. During Infinite Crisis, he appeared as an antagonist, killing Connor Kent along with a bunch of other superheroes, and also killed Superman from Earth 2. He was defeated and locked up in a prison near Re-Sun Eater. However, he escaped again and attacked the Green Lanterns during the Sinestro Corps War. He played a negative character in Final Crisis, Legion of Three Worlds event. However, in the latest Death Metal event, he was phenomenal in stopping the Batman Who Laughs. Prime's powers are the same as that of Superman, however he's stronger, as displayed in the comic books. Also, he's not bound by any moral obligations of a superhero, and is driven by pure rage, which makes him unstoppable. He's able to stop magic, as he once punch-stopped the transformations of the Shazam family. Superman from Earth 1. This Superman debuted in Superman Earth 1 Volume 1 on October 27, 2010, and was created by writer J. Michael Straczynski and artist Shane Davis. Clark had always been a loner since childhood. He'd excelled in sports as well as academics. After he left Smallville, Clark Kent arrived in Metropolis and found work at the Daily Planet, where he learned that the newspaper industry was declining. Nothing interested him, and in his alone time he flew into space to contemplate his past and purpose. He discovered his Kryptonian origins and learned that he was the last survivor of Krypton. An alien invasion forced Clark to reveal himself as Superman and save Earth. He fought against the Armada leader, Tyrell, in his Kryptonian garb and defeated him, but the invasion left the public with mixed opinions of Superman. He decided to work at the Daily Planet using a disguise as Clark Kent and continued to use his powers wisely while hiding his ship in a secret cave in the Arctic. He later fought with the Parasite and defeated him. General Zod-El appeared on Earth following Parasite's events and blamed Superman's father for destroying Krypton. However, Superman learned that it was Zod who gave the Duronians the weapon with which they destroyed Krypton. When Superman faced Zod, he was badly beaten up by him. However, Lex and his wife Alexandra intervened and weakened Zod with red sun radiation and killed him. But Lex died in the battle. Superman continued to protect Earth after that, with Lois as his political aide. His powers are the same as that of Superman from main Earth, with the only perk that he's young and inexperienced, and still has a lot of time to test his limits. Prince Clark from Dark Knights of Steel. Prince Clark debuted in Dark Knights of Steel issue number 1 in November 2021 and was created by Tom Taylor and Yasmin Putri. In this reality, Jor-El traveled with a pregnant Lara from Krypton in a rocket ship that crash-landed on Earth during the medieval times, in a kingdom ruled by the benevolent King Thomas and Queen Martha. Lara gave birth to Clark and then later to their daughter Zala. They kept their existence a secret until the day Jor and Lara had to come out in order to save the kingdom from a dormant volcano. They became family friends. Jor-El and Martha had a brief affair, as a result of which Bruce was born, but they kept his lineage a secret. One night, Thomas and Martha's carriage was attacked and they were killed, relinquishing the rule of the kingdom to Jor and Lara. Clark grew as a kind and benevolent king and had Bruce and Zala as his siblings since childhood. He always believed in compassion and mercy, rather than Bruce, who believed in doing things using fear and force. However, a drastic sequence of events ensues when Jor-El was assassinated by Green Arrow at the order of the Green Man, Luthor. Clark's mettle was tested as he went to meet the leaders to stop the war at hand on peaceful terms, while an imposter White Martian kept tarnishing the image of House of El by murdering in their disguise. This version of Superman has all the powers of Superman from the main Earth. He's young and inexperienced and hasn't taken up the mantle of Superman yet. Hyperius from Earth 8. Hyperius debuted in the Multiversity issue number 1 in October 2014 and was created by Grant Morrison and Brian Hitch. The character of Hyperius was inspired and based on the superhero Hyperion from Marvel Comics, who is in turn a pastiche of Superman. Very little is known about the origin of Hyperius. During the Final Crisis event, he appeared as one of the Supermen who helped the other Supermen to fight against the Vampire Lord Mandrak and save the universe. He went out of the comic book continuity for a while after he disappeared before the rise of Nix Uotan, the Dark Monitor. He came back later and joined forces with Earth 8's mightiest heroes, the Retaliators, to save their world from the Dark Matter Beasts. The powers of Hyperius were never documented in the comic books. However, being a Superman from a different universe, he should have powers similar to him. Unlike Superman, he chooses to wear a mask to hide his real face. He's affiliated to the Retaliators and the Supermen of the multiverse. President Superman from Earth 23. Before he was elected as president, Barack Obama joked that he was rocketed to the planet Earth by his father, Jor-El. Taking this as a beautiful idea, writer Grant Morrison and artist Doug Mahnke introduced a new version of Superman, Calvin Ellis, aka President Superman. He debuted in Final Crisis issue number 7 in March 2009. During Final Crisis, he first appeared to help save the universe alongside the Superman of the multiverse. His origins were explored during New 52. His birth name was Kal-El, and he was born on the Vathlo island of Krypton to parents Jor-El and Lara. He was rocketed to Earth when Krypton exploded and was adopted by the Ellis family and was named Calvin. Although the Ellises were poor, they always taught him to stand tall and fight for truth and justice. As his powers grew, he took up the mantle of Superman and became the President of the United States with his unparalleled brilliance to fight for truth, justice, and the American way. He once defeated an evil alternate version of himself from another universe with the help of Lex Luthor. He took an active role in international affairs, such as destroying Baalia's nuclear facilities and inviting them to join the global community. President Superman has got exactly the same powers as Superman from main Earth. To his aid, he uses Brainiac as his personal supercomputer in the White House, who covers for him when he's out saving the world. Superman Secret Identity. This version made his debut in Superman Secret Identity issue number 1 in January 2004 and was created by Kurt Busiek and Stuart Immonen. In this story, Clark was born in Pickettsville, Kansas, instead of Krypton. He was named Clark by his parents David and Laura after the famous fictional superhero Superman. One night, Clark mysteriously woke up to find that he had the power of flight, much like Superman himself. After that, he started using his powers in secrecy to help and save people in danger, dressed up as Superboy. He later moved to Metropolis and became a budding writer and met Lois Chowdhury. They started a relationship. However, when the government attempted to acquire his blood samples, Clark decided to keep his superhero life and civilian life further apart. When Lois was pregnant with twins, Clark cut a deal with the US government to do non-political errands so that the government let his family live in peace. While discovering the true nature of his powers, he also discovered that Carol and Jane had superpowers. Although his powers started fading, he kept running jobs for the government. Later, he retired and led a peaceful life with his daughters and grandchildren. The powers of this version of Superman are lesser than that of main Earth Superman, as he doesn't have a Kryptonian physiology. Long after Carol and Jane were born, Clark discovered that his powers came from the meteor shower that mutated his genes and his subconscious, redirecting his mutation to match that of Superman. And his powers also waned away as he grew old. Super Doom from New 52. Doomsday developed a virus that could kill anything within 100 yards of him, so Superman tried to stop him by flying him to Venus, where his body would be burned by the planet's intense heat. Doomsday was seemingly killed in the battle, and Superman returned to Earth. But Doomsday regenerated and teleported back to Smallville. In order to stop the death virus from spreading and keep Doomsday contained inside his body, Superman split Doomsday in half, burned him to ashes, and then inhaled those ashes. In only a short span of time, Superman started displaying more violent personality traits. His skin began to turn progressively grey and rock-like, and he began to grow bony protrusions. This demonstrated that Superman had contracted Doomsday's virus, and despite his attempts to burn off his rage by flying into an asteroid belt and destroying asteroids, the virus inside him gradually gained control. In the end, he turned into a version of Superman and Doomsday combined, a Super Doom, driven by pure rage. Super Doom has all the powers of New 52 Superman, as well as the unstoppable powers of Doomsday. Super Brainiac Doom from New 52. After Superman was infected with the Doomsday virus, it's revealed that it was Brainiac who ordered the Phantom King Zardu to unleash Doomsday in order to eliminate Superman as he was getting ready to absorb the collective consciousness of everyone on Earth. When Superman freed Lois Lane inside the Brainiac ship, Brainiac had already partially assimilated with her. In a last attempt to save his family, he tried to take away what was left of Lois. Lois, too, in a last attempt to defeat Brainiac, touched Superman and gave him the collective psionic powers of Brainiac and switched on the Doomsday virus in him as well, turning him into Super Brainiac Doom. He ripped open Brainiac's mothership, freeing everyone that he'd imprisoned. Super Brainiac Doom pulled the ship into a black hole while simultaneously healing himself of the Doomsday virus. Super Brainiac Doom was the smartest as well as the strongest behemoth in the entire universe. He had New 52 Superman strength, Brainiac's knowledge over centuries that he collected across universes, and Doomsday's unstoppable might. Trigon Superman. The Trigon Superman made his appearance in the DC animated movie Justice League Dark: Apocalypse War on May 5th, 2020. In the movie, Darkseid had defeated every Justice League member and killed several superheroes from the Justice League as well as the Teen Titans. He took away Superman's power by giving him a chest tattoo made of liquid kryptonite. He also brainwashed Batman and put him under mind control. Raven was struggling to keep Trigon from coming to Earth by using her as his doorway. When Raven and Damian tried to free Batman, Damian died in the fight. Raven broke emotionally, and Trigon became free. Constantine offered Trigon to possess him, but he preferred Superman as a host. He took over Superman's body and shed the liquid kryptonite tattoo, and so he stood, an omnipowerful god of hell, merged with the greatest superhero from Krypton. Just to see how powerful a new god is, Trigon Superman attacked Darkseid and started beating him in his fight. He would have completely decimated Darkseid if Lois's death wouldn't have traumatized Superman. Superman's reaction drove Trigon out of his body, and Darkseid imprisoned him within a sphere of Omega beams. Later, Trigon took on Darkseid alone in the battle, and was locked into the Black Void fighting Darkseid forever. Trigon Superman has the might of Superman as well as the hellish magical powers of Trigon, where he can throw hellfire from his hands and mouth. He's so powerful that he even beat Darkseid in a full-blown battle. Alan Adam from Earth 4. Captain Alan Adam, aka Captain Atom of Earth 4, aka the Quantum Superman, debuted in Final Crisis, Superman Beyond issue number 1 in October 2008. He was created by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. Adam obtained his powers in an accident at an experimental uranium engine test, which exploded and transformed him into a disembodied mind with the ability to sense quantum physics. With the help of quantum physics, he created a new body for himself, but relied on drugs to suppress his senses, if they ever got out of hand. He was reluctant to use his powers and was content following orders from the military. During the Final Crisis, Adam was recruited by Monitor Zillow Valor to battle against Mandrak, the Dark Monitor. However, their ship was attacked and Adam was forced to use his abilities to save the rest of the group. After crash landing in Limbo, he helped fix the ship and his drugs were allowed to wear off, resulting in him uniting the minds of Superman and Ultraman and helping create the Thought robot to fight the Dark Monitor. Adam is a pastiche of Captain Atom and Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen. He can manipulate quantum fields and matters around him and destroy and create new matter entirely. He perceives the past, present, and future in parallel. He's an all-knowing entity due to his quantum sense. He can manipulate reality itself in the 8-dimensional level and can levitate. The true limits of his powers are still unknown. Kal-El from The Nail. This Elseworld story came out in 3 issues in 1998. It was written and drawn by Alan Davis. In this world, due to a flat tire as a result of a nail, farmers Jonathan and Martha Kent didn't find the rocket ship that carried baby Kal in it. The Justice League now is composed of Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, Hawkwoman, The Atom, Martian Manhunter, and Green Lantern. Along with Metropolis Mayor Lex Luthor and Vice Mayor Jimmy Olsen, journalist Perry White ran an anti-meta-human campaign of lies. Green Arrow, having lost his ability to move during a fight, believed that the Justice League is an extraterrestrial organization that's plotting against mankind. Hawkman had lost his life in the same fight. One by one, all metahuman organizations like the Doom Patrol and the Outsiders, followed by the supervillains, were systematically eliminated. The investigative journalist Lois Lane discovered that it was Jimmy who was the mastermind behind this. He had Luthor experiment on him to create a Kryptonian hybrid, and Jimmy was experimenting on other metahumans to create a society of Kryptonians. Batman, Catwoman, Atom, and Flash helped the Justice League escape. When Jimmy tried to kill Batman, he was stopped by a farmer from the Amish community, who was revealed to be Kal-El. Jimmy killed Kal's parents with heat vision when he refused to join him. In a fit of rage, Kal started punching Jimmy and he disintegrated and died. Kal later joined the Justice League and became this Earth's Superman. This Superman has exactly the same powers as that of Superman from main Earth. Harvey Dent, Earth 9. This Superman is based on the original concept of Superman from his prototype pilot story, The Reign of Superman, written by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. This Superman made his first appearance in Tangent Comics, The Superman issue number 1, in September 1998 and was created by Mark Miller and Jackson Geiss. In the 1970s, Nightwing attempted to create more superhumans and accomplished this by administering an experimental evolutionary drug known as Miraclo to the population of a South Carolina town. Harvey Dent was the only survivor of the experiment. Later, when he grew up, Harvey fell from the tallest building on Earth and emerged unscathed. It was the fall that unlocked his evolving mind. Harvey rapidly developed telekinesis and telepathy and gained the ability to manifest anything he could imagine. He ultimately became a superhero and was given the name the Superman. Harvey is telekinetic and telepathic. He could create force fields out of thin air and move objects at his mere whim. He had enhanced intellect and could interface with anything technological. He has the power of flight and has precognitive and postcognitive sights. Superman from Earth 10. This is another Nazi Superman that exists in the multiverse. He made his first appearance in 52 issue number 52 in July 2007. He was created by Justin Gray and Travis Moore. Adolf Hitler appointed Superman as one of his superhumans to serve the SS. Superman became a member of the Gerechtigkeitsliga, which enforced the Nazi regime. After discovering the substance kryptonite, which could weaken and kill him, Superman set out to eliminate every trace of it from the face of Earth 10. Later, the Forerunner came to Earth 10 to recruit superhumans for the Monarch's army. Superman revolted but was subdued when Forerunner impaled him with kryptonite shards. He was ultimately recruited into Monarch's forces. This version of Superman was previously presented with a different look, having blonde hair, but his looks were retconned later and given dark hair. This version of Superman has the same powers as that of main Earth Superman. Superman from Dark Knight Returns, Earth 31. This Superman made his first appearance in Batman Dark Knight Triumphant, written and drawn by Frank Miller. In this version, the origin of Superman is the same as that of main Earth. Kal-El became Superman and stayed as a savior of mankind. However, with time, the superheroes aged and retired one by one. The League disbanded. Superman, however, continued his quest to help mankind, now only in secret. His main job was for the government, where he used to run errands for the President of the US. With time, there was no glory left in him, except for being a henchman for the government. But this was a price he gladly paid for remaining on the job to help humankind. When Batman came back from his retirement and created havoc in Gotham, Superman was brought in to bring him in. Superman tried to talk sense into Batman. In the end, he had to face off Batman in the crime alley. There was an iconic battle that formed the template of every Batman-Superman battle in the years to come. Batman apparently died in the battle of a heart attack. However, Superman discovered that he was still alive, and he left with a smile and a wink at Robin. This version of Superman hasn't aged and is still in his prime, besides of being almost 50 years in action as Superman. He's got all the powers and abilities of Superman, and has apparently grown stronger with age. Composite Superman. There have been many composites over the years. The first one debuted in World's Finest Comics issue number 142 in June 1964. He was created by Edmund Hamilton and Kurt Swan. Joseph Meach used to work at the Superman Museum when a lightning strike struck the Legionnaire statues, and the energy blast from it gave Meach combined superpowers of the Legions. He turned his skin green and morphed a costume that was half Superman and half Batman, thus taking the identity of Composite Superman. He worked on deducing Superman and Batman's secret identities and would have exposed them, but all his powers went away and he became a normal human being again. An evil alien named Xan, seeking vengeance on Superman and Batman, restored Meech's powers and attacked Superman and Batman. But when Zang tried to kill them with an energy blast, Meech sacrificed himself and was killed. Xan recreated Meech's incident and gave himself Meech's powers. He became the new Composite and called himself Amalgamax. However, he was defeated by the combined forces of Superman, Batman, and Legion. Later, two of Professor Ivo's androids escaped and formed the Composite Superman. When faced with the choices of whether it wanted to be both Superman and Batman, or simply one of them and the amount of crimes going on in the world, it became unstable and destroyed itself. Later, when the Devil Nezza took control of the entire Justice League, Superman and Batman willed the power ring off Hal Jordan's fingers and fused them to form a more whole composite. The composite incapacitated the entire Justice League, but was broken into Superman and Batman by Nezza during the fight. Meech had different powers than Superman. He could grow and shrink and break up into multiple people. He could phase through walls and become invisible. He was telepathic and telekinetic. He had 12th level intelligence and magnetic powers. Ivo's composite displayed the powers of Superman as well as Batman, and the last one had all the powers of Superman and Batman since the originals had merged to form the composite. Super Doom from Earth 45. Super Doom from Earth 45 debuted in Action Comics Volume 2, issue number 9 in July 2012, and was created by Grant Morrison and Gene Ha. On this Earth, Clark Kent banded with his friends, Lois and Jimmy, to create a machine made of sound vibrations to turn thoughts into reality, and used the concept of Superman as the underlying blueprint idea, so the machine could serve as redeemer of the world. They eventually sold the machine to Overcore, where the machine's base idea was corrupted with the agenda of creating a franchise called The Last Night of Tomorrow. The machine awoke and took complete control of Earth, calling itself Super Doom. It entered bleed space that separated the universe and went on a hunt to kill every version of Superman across the multiverse. He ravaged worlds and killed many Supermen. When it finally came to the New 52 Earth, thanks to Lex and Vin Kitovix, he started his rampage again. He was finally stopped for good when he turned into a bomb and Superman detonated him on the dark side of the moon. He was later revived as a force of good and joined the heroes of the multiverse against the Gentry. Although he can match the New 52 Superman in all of his powers, his power level remains variable that somehow depends on the strength of the opponent whom he faces at the time. He can grow in size, as he's powered by the thoughts of his opponents, and he can shoot energy beams from its eyes. He is, however, vulnerable to kryptonite. Christopher Kent from Earth 16. Christopher debuted in Countdown Arena issue number 1 in February 2008 and was created by Keith Champagne and Scott McDaniel. Christopher was raised in a traditional Buddhist monastery and had a unique physical and mental setup compared to other Supermen from other dimensions. He had superhuman powers that he used to protect life on his Earth, but at the same time believed in peace, harmony, and tranquility. He was eventually kidnapped and brought to the Monarch space arena. Along with other heroes, Christopher attempted to resist the Monarch, but was initially overpowered. By mentally altering his power absorption ability, he absorbed lethal radiation in the arena to empower himself in place of sunlight and caused damage to the Monarch to distract him. This gave a chance to the Earth 30 and Earth 31 Supermen to confront the Monarch, but ultimately Christopher was killed by the Monarch's immense power. Christopher's powers were similar to the main Earth Superman, but his power levels varied. He was shown to change his power levels and manipulate the energy sources that gave him superpowers. Overman from Earth 17. Overman made his debut in Animal Man issue number 23 in May 1990 and was created by Grant Morrison. This Superman hails from the Earth where everything had gone wrong. The governments of this world were responsible for birthing all the superhumans of this world through scientific experiments. Overman was the first of the superhumans, and then he was cloned and further cloned, and the new superheroes were created. Overman's fundamental flaw was that he was addicted to destruction. Once he attacked his Earth and killed almost everyone in his sadistic rampage. Then he unleashed himself on other Earths in his fit of destruction with a doomsday bomb. Ultraman and Bizarro battled him, and he was finally defeated by Animal Man. Overman has all the powers of main Earth Superman and all of his weaknesses. Kal, the Super Martian from Earth 32. The forefathers of Kal-El from this universe were Martians, but they lived alongside Kryptonians and he was from such an intertwined bloodline. His origin might have been similar to Superman, where he arrived on Earth 32 as an infant. He was introduced in the Multiversity issue number 1 in October 2014. Written by Grant Morrison and illustrated by Ivan Rice. He was an amalgamation of Martian Manhunter and Superman. He was best friends with Lex Luthor, aka Batman of Earth 32. Their base of operations was a combination of Superman's Fortress of Solitude and Batman's Batcave. He was abducted by Earth 45's Doom Thor and later contacted Batman to save him. At that time, Batman fought off Apex Lex and left to answer Super Martian's call for help. This version of Superman has the powers of Martian Manhunter and Superman combined. Aside from his Kryptonian powers, he also has the powers of shape-shifting and telepathy. He's vulnerable to the Red Sun. Super Soldier Clark Kent, Amalgam Universe. This Superman hails from the Amalgam Universe and was debuted in Marvel vs. DC issue number 3 in April 1996 and was created by Mark Waid and Dave Gibbons. During World War II, government scientists attempted to create a super soldier by administering a formula made of alien genes and solar radiation to a volunteer named Clark Kent. The mixture of the formula and radiation resulted in Clark obtaining extraordinary superpowers. Clark took up the moniker Super Soldier and became a part of the All-Star Winners Squadron and fought Nazis. He was romantically interested in Lois Lane, who was later coerced into a marriage with the evil scientist Lex Luthor. Super Soldier and his allies fought against Baron Zero, a member of the Nazi organization Hydra, who was working for Lex. In 1942, Super Soldier almost single-handedly won the war until he was defeated by Ultra Metallo, a robot powered by kryptonite and sent by Lex. 50 years later, the Justice League discovered Super Soldier's frozen body and he came back and joined the team as their leader while working as Clark Kent at the Daily Planet. This Superman is a pastiche of Marvel's Captain America and has superhuman strength, invulnerability, agility and heat vision, and a regenerative healing factor. Together with that, he's a trained combatant and a soldier and tactical analyst. Superman True Brit. Superman True Brit is an Elseworld story that's a parody on the coming of age of Superman. It was released on October 30th, 2004 and written by John Cleese and art by John Byrne. In this story, Kal-El's ship was intentionally directed to land in the British Empire of England by Jor-El, which to his knowledge was the most powerful nation. The Clarks discovered the ship and took Kal-El in, but while going through the visual documentation that was in Kal's ship, they misheard Kal-El as Colin and named him Colin Clark. After that, a series of tongue-in-cheek funny incidents ensued as Clark's powers manifested. Every time he tried to use his powers, something backfired and caused an accident. Colin was shown to be downright stupid in a few instances, as he impaled another player with his cricket bat once. He met Louisa and started liking him, but even she despised him. Later, there was a parking space incident from which he saved a lot of people wearing a colourful costume and appeared as Superman for the first time. Eventually, Colin learned to hone his powers and Louisa started liking his Superman alter ego. Later, he met Lois Lane, Louisa's American cousin, and developed a relationship with her. The Batman, the man who was impaled by the cricket bat, tried to poison him with kryptonite and also defame him through Daily Smear newspaper. However, Superman overcame all of that and moved to America as an immigrant, continuing his fight for mankind wearing the original Superman costume. This version of Superman has all the powers of the main Earth counterpart. Superman, Last Son of Earth. This Superman debuted in Superman, Last Son of Earth #1 in 2000 and was created by Steve Gerber and Doug Wheatley. Jonathan Kent, a brilliant scientist from Earth, discovered that a meteor was about to crash into the planet that would destroy Earth in its entirety. To save his wife and son, he built a spaceship. However, his wife wanted to spend the last days by his side, so with a heavy heart, they launched Clark into space. Clark landed on the planet Krypton and was adopted by scientist Jor-El, who renamed him Kal-El. He modified Clark's body to withstand the conditions of Krypton. However, later, Krypton was overcome with death from the rebellious clones of the Clone Banks and the Green Plague. An adult Kal-El discovered a Green Lantern ring and saved Krypton. He later regained his memories at Oa and returned to a post-apocalyptic Earth. There, he encountered his love, Lois Lane, and his nemesis, Lex Luthor. Due to Krypton's stronger gravity, Kal-El's body had adapted, granting him superhuman abilities, similar to the classic depiction of Superman. He fought the evil forces of Lex Luthor and helped restore Earth. This Superman has all the powers of main Earth Superman, and he's additionally empowered by a Green Lantern ring. From Earth 230. Lex-El debuted in Superman issue number 230 in October 1970. He was created by Cary Bates and Curt Swan. Lex-El was born on Krypton and lost his hair when his cruel father Jor-El held his head near a radioactive matter as a punishment. Later, one of Jor-El's mad experiments went wrong and his wife Laura was killed, and Krypton was destroyed. But Jor-El escaped with Lex to Earth. They landed in Kansas and killed robbers Jonathan and Martha Kent in the crash. Jonathan and Martha's son Clark was taken in by the Lang family, but not before his mind was infected by the evil Dr. Mercom's chromostimulant. Lex took up the moniker Superboy to put his superpowers to good use and made friends with Clark and Lana, but Clark's chromostimulant was activated and he killed Jor-El and went missing. Lex grew up and became this world's Superman and created his fortress in the Rocky Mountains. To maintain his secret identity, he joined as a reporter in the Daily Planet and kept fighting for truth and justice and saving Earth from evil villains like Clark, aka Killer Kent. As he was from Krypton, he shared the same powers and abilities as main Earth Superman. Moreover, he had a temporal prism in his possession that enabled him to see through time. Kal-El from Earth 1863. Kal-El of this Earth debuted in the Kingdom issue number 2 in February 1999 and was created by Roger Stern and Eduardo Barreto. Kal-El was rocketed to Earth in the 19th century when Krypton was destroyed. The spaceship carrying Kal-El landed near the property of Kansas couple Josephus and Sarah Kent, who were recovering from the grief of losing a baby from stillbirth. Josephus found the baby and adopted him, naming him Atticus Kent. Growing up, Atticus was taught the value of equality by the Kents, and he later witnessed the horrors of the Civil War and its racial hypocrisy. He manifested his Kryptonian powers during the Battle of Vicksburg and helped the Union win the war. He also prevented the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln and was requested by Lincoln to help with the Reconstruction program. Atticus eventually learned of his Kryptonian origins and decided to live among the Native Americans in the Western American plains, upholding the ideals of freedom and liberty. He rode out into the unmarked American West on a horse that he created from the remnants of his spaceship, after communicating his wish for living among the original inhabitants of America to President Lincoln. He has all the powers of the main Earth Superman, and he's also a pro horse lover and excels in studying horses and riding them. Kal-El from Holy Terror. Batman Holy Terror was the first Elseworlds story to actually receive an Elseworlds logo. It was written by Alan Brennett and illustrated by the legendary Norm Breyfogle. Superman made a brief cameo in it. The story is set in the 20th century, where the United States was run by a theocratic government. Anyone who went against the government was systematically removed or killed. The Privy Council was involved in counter-reproductive activities that experimented on human beings to turn them to meta. In the process, many have lost their lives. Bruce sneaked his way into the Star Chamber using Reverend Judson's ID. There, he found several test subjects like Barry Allen and Arthur Curry, who were getting experimented on to turn them into meta-puppets of the Council. Barry told him that the experiments were led by an evil Dr. Saul Erdel. Erdell showed him the body of Superman, whom he killed with kryptonite as he was becoming rebellious. When Bruce looked at Superman's body, he was filled with hope and sorrow at the same time, as the world will never see this beacon of power and light. Losing all hope and getting angry, Bruce fought Erdell and Clayface. He killed Clayface by freezing him with liquid nitrogen. Erdell fired at Batman, but the bullet hit Superman's body and ricocheted and hit him back, killing him. Bruce looked at Superman's body and was grateful. He was inspired to keep fighting for justice and be a symbol of hope as Batman. This version of Superman made an appearance as a dead body, so his powers were never shown. Superman from Son of Superman. This Elseworld story was published in 1999. It was written by Howard Chaykin and David Tishman and drawn by J.H. Williams III. Jonathan Samuel Kent started manifesting his powers when he grew up as a result of a solar flare eruption. His mother Lois revealed that his father, Clark Kent, who disappeared 15 years ago, was actually Superman. John created a new Superman-like costume and started helping the needy with his powers. He came to know that Lex Luthor had imprisoned Superman in an underground base. He freed his father from captivity. Meanwhile, Lex had obtained superhuman abilities like Superman via his experiments on Superman. Lex Luthor and his army later attacked New York in the super armor that he got from Pete Ross. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and John worked together in defeating them. John fought Luthor alone and emerged victorious. John and Clark later bonded better in their life. Both Superman and John Kent from this story had the same Kryptonian powers as that of main Earth Superman. Superman from Elseworld's Finest. Elseworld's Finest was an Elseworld story published in October 1997 and was written by John Francis Moore and drawn by Kieran Dwyer. This version of Clark Kent had developed superpowers as he grew up, but he never became Superman. Instead, he kept his superpowered side hidden with his mild-mannered disposition. He took a job at the Daily Planet and became an investigative reporter instead. When Professor Thaddeus Lang was kidnapped by Ra's, Clark went on an adventure to rescue him and retrieve the Codex of Argos, a map to the hidden city of Argos found by adventurer Jason and his Argonauts. Clark was accompanied by Lana and Bruce. At Argos, Clark discovered the ancient Kryptonian Godstone, aka the Harbinger, the creator and destroyer of worlds. When Clark touched it, it showed him his Kryptonian origins and programmed his brain with the Harbinger to follow Kryptonian orders and start a new world order on Earth. Keeping these thoughts at bay, Clark begged Bruce to kill him, or else he'll cause the destruction of Earth. Having no choice, Bruce stabbed him in the heart, but he was revived by Talia's magic and sunlight. With the Harbinger expunged from his mind, he saved everyone and then took up the mantle of Superman in order to help mankind. This version of Superman had all the powers of the main Earth counterpart. Negative Superman. The Negative Superman first appeared in World's Finest issue number 126 in June 1962. The story took place in the pre-crisis main Earth where Lex Luthor fired his ray gun at Superman in order to turn him into a living shadow. However, it affected Superman adversely and a new Negative Superman emerged in front of him. This Negative Superman did exactly the opposite of whatever Superman did. If Superman used his heat vision, the Negative used freeze breath on the same object. He didn't talk, just imitated Superman and did the exact opposite. Once he broke open a prison and let all the prisoners out. Superman, Batman and Robin worked together to lock them up again. Luthor also manipulated him to break open a bank vault. Superman and the Negative repelled each other. An invisible force field existed between them. In the end, Batman strengthened the Negative using kryptonite and let it fly through Superman at full speed, and both of them merged to create the original Superman again. The Negative Superman had all of Superman's abilities, but it couldn't think and got strength from kryptonite. Superman Inc. This Elseworld story was released in November 1999 and was written by Steve Vance and drawn by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. When Kal-El arrived on Earth, he was adopted by Daryl and Edna Suderman and was named Dale. When Dale started manifesting his powers, Edna, already a heart patient, believed him to be possessed and was killed in an accident, and she ran seeing Dale fly. After Daryl died, Dale moved from one foster home to another and underwent numerous counseling sessions. He eventually discovered his athletic prowess and under the tutelage of his friend and mentor Marcus Clark, became a basketball superstar, which earned him the nickname Superman. He became very self-centered and threw Marcus out of his office when Marcus advised him to be wiser. But when Marcus died in an aeroplane crash, he was devastated. Then Lex outed him as an alien, and the public despised him for keeping his superpowers a secret. He returned to Kansas where he was struck by lightning and rescued by the Kents. He stayed with the Kents and became a part of their family. He opened the Superman Foundation for the betterment of humanity and declared that he would be leaving Earth. He actually didn't leave Earth and stayed using the disguise of Clark Kent, honoring Marcus as well as the Kents. Dale had similar powers to main Earth Superman, but his powers were of a lesser level. Superman, Kal. This Elseworld story was released in March 1995 and was written by Dave Gibbons and drawn by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Kal-El arrived on this Earth in the Middle Ages. He was taken in by farmers who watched his arrival on the ship. He grew up to be a blacksmith. Lady Lois, the daughter of the previous village protector, watched Kal and started showing interest in him. Kal was given the task of creating an armor from the metal of his rocket ship when he won a tournament organized by Baron Luther. Kal and Lois fell in love and got married, but Luther forbade him from sleeping with Lois. Instead, Luther tried to violate Lois and then killed her. Kal started his rally against the Baron. In the final battle, Luther's men doused Kal in oil and molten metal and fire, but couldn't stop him. He faced Luther, but Luther stabbed him in the heart with kryptonite. Kal pierced Luther in the chest with his sword, killing him. Kal died a hero, and his story became a tale of legends. Kal was shown to have exactly the same powers as main Earth, Superman. Superman, American Alien. This new take on Superman's origin was released in 2016 and was written by Max Landis. This is a coming-of-age story for Superman. It followed the same premise as any other Superman origin story. In this take also, Superman was sent from Krypton and adopted by the Kents, who taught him to hone his powers and were very supportive. Clark's friends knew that he had superpowers, but they helped him by keeping it a secret. Clark saved a family from a group of murderous robbers at Smallville. In that incident, he got the taste of actual evil for the first time. Also, he learned how it is to help people. He later crashed into Bruce Wayne's yacht and beat up Deathstroke, who was sent to kill Wayne. When Clark moved to Metropolis, Wayne appeared as Batman and jumped him, but Clark overpowered him and unmasked him. He took Batman's cape and made a makeshift superhero costume and started helping people. He later accepted his fate as humanity's hopeful savior when Lois Lane hinted at it. He kept the name Superman, the name with which Luthor addressed him, and became a full-blown superhero. This version of Superman had the same powers as the main Earth Superman. The Last Family of Krypton. The Last Family of Krypton was released in 2010 and was written by Cary Bates and drawn by Renato Arlem. In this reality, Jor-El and Lara travel to Earth with Kal after the destruction of Krypton. Jor-El became obsessed with the safety of Earth so that it doesn't share the same fate as Krypton. He set up the scientific corporation named Jor-Corps. They had twins, Bru-El and Valora, but they were only half superhuman. Jor-El devoted most of his time calculating everything meticulously and systematically changing events so that there are no more superheroes on Earth. Lara became a spiritual healer in the lieu of Kryptonian religion. Jor-El appointed a young Luthor to work for him, but he turned out to be evil. He turned Bru-El into a kryptonite-powered mindless being, who went on a rampage and tried to kill Jor-El. Lara died, saving Jor-El instead. Kal-El fought Bru-El alone and was able to stop him. In the end, Jor-El became a wanderer on a spiritual journey, and Kal-El assumed the role of savior of humanity. As he was from Krypton, Kal-El had all the powers of main Earth Superman. Lois Lane from Dark Multiverse, Death of Superman. Lois from Dark Multiverse debuted in Tales from the Dark Multiverse, The Death of Superman issue number 1 in December 2019. This issue was written by Jeff Loveness. Lois Lane from this Earth in Dark Multiverse blamed the Justice League as they couldn't save Superman from dying at the hands of Doomsday. She discovered the Eradicator while she was paying respects for the Kents and decided to become a vessel to its power. She was turned into a Kryptonian and she took on the emblem of in order to serve Earth. With time, her obsession grew as she wanted to do more. She took things into her own hands and started punishing the guilty without any regard for human life. In the course, she also killed Lex Luthor, who was storing a nuclear arsenal that was causing radiation poisoning. She was confronted by Batman armed with kryptonite after she killed the Joker. She easily overpowered Batman and killed him. While she was fighting Cyborg Superman, the original Superman was brought back to life in the Restoration Matrix. Superman, who wasn't at his full power yet, confronted her and tried to talk sense into her. But in the battle with Cyborg Superman, kryptonite gas was released and Superman succumbed to his death. Lois, though heartbroken, believed that her presence was now more than required, continued to impose her force on the world. Although Lois was imbued with the force of Eradicator, she displayed all the powers of Superman from main Earth. Superman from Deceased. Deceased was a miniseries released in May 2019. This book was written by Tom Taylor and drawn by Trevor Hairsine. In this alternate universe, Darkseid abducted Cyborg in order to extract half of the anti-life equation from his techno-organic circuitry. He summoned Black Racer and forced out his essence of death in order to keep Cyborg alive during the extraction. Darkseid mixed the essence of death with his anti-life and injected it into Cyborg. The anti-life equation was corrupted and turned Darkseid into a raging, flesh-eating deadite. Victor escaped by booming himself to Earth. On arrival, he connected to all electronic devices and satellites via the internet, and the virus spread itself, turning people into enraged, flesh-eating deadites. Superman immediately started quarantining the infected, including his father, Jonathan Kent, and secluding the survivors. But when Barry Allen, the Flash, got infected and he started infecting everyone around the world at super speed, Superman decided to stop him in his path. He flew from the other side of the world and shredded Flash into pieces. However, Flash's fingers got stuck into him and infected him. He fought off the infection for long and bid goodbye to his family and surviving friends and left for space to die. But the infection took over. He returned and started destroying the life arcs and infecting others. Wonder Woman made a sword from kryptonite and cut off his arm and stabbed him. Superman's son, John, drove him to space to buy time for planetary evacuation, but was badly hurt. The Green Lanterns joined in and tried to contain Superman. In the end, Superman retreated into the sun and started absorbing its power, slowly drawing the entire universe toward an ice age. He was later revived with the antidote developed by Cyborg, and he came back as Superman. This Superman has the same powers as that of main Earth Superman. Rand from Dark Multiverse. Rand made his first appearance in Sideways issue number 8 in November 2018. He was created by Dan Didio, Max Rayner, Trevor Scott, and Kenneth Rocafort. In one of the worlds of the Dark Multiverse, Rand used to be Superman. He'd arrived as a baby there and took on the mantle of Superman and went on being a force for good. However, he was exposed to red kryptonite radiation that affected him adversely. He was mutated, and his form began to change into an insect-like humanoid. His world faced the same fate as the others from the Dark Multiverse and started collapsing, but he was rescued from impending doom by Paris the Benevolent. He joined the superhero Misfits team called Unseen, which consisted of heroes from other dead worlds. The Unseen fed their life forces to Paris, and he kept them alive and functioning in return. Before turning into an insectoid, he had the same powers as Superman. However, his powers were not shown after his metamorphosis. Superman Blue from Dark Multiverse. This version of Superman debuted in Dark Knight's Metal issue number 4 in February 2018 and was created by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. This Superman hails from one of the worlds of the Dark Multiverse. Similar to the story of Blue Superman from main Earth, this version used to be the Superman of his Earth. However, his powers turned energy-based, and he started resembling the Blue Superman in the energy containment suit. As most of the Dark Multiverse version of a superhero does, this Superman also enslaved his world and later became the Dark Bat God Barbatos' henchman and guarded the main Earth Superman when he was imprisoned in a Dark Earth during the Dark Knight's Metal event. Batman used the five-fingered Death Punch kryptonite gauntlet to fend off this Blue Superman while trying to save the main Earth Superman. But the Blue Superman was quite persistent and stressed that Batman couldn't win. Batman had to summon Dream to help him and main Earth Superman escape. This version of Blue Superman had similar energy-based powers like his main Earth counterpart. Black Zero, Hypertension. Black Zero made his debut in the Kingdom issue number 2 in February 1999 and was created by Carl Kessel and Tom Grummett. In this alternate timeline, Connor Kent became Superboy after being cloned by Cadmus, similar to his main Earth counterpart. However, Superman never came back from the dead. Down the line, Connor grew up and started operating under the moniker Superman 2. Connor was always reckless, and his actions hurt a lot of innocent civilians. That was when people saw him as a ruse and rallied against cloning. Connor wanted to stop them as he thought that he was standing up for the right of clones. So, he took the name of Black Zero and attacked the superheroes with his army of clones and killed many. He conquered his Earth, finally. Aided by Metron, he entered Hypertime with the agenda of saving all his clones throughout timelines. But all the Superboys got together under the leadership of original Superboy from main Earth and stopped him. He has all the tactile telekinetic superpowers of Connor Kent, Superboy of main Earth. Boy Bizarro from Pre-Crisis Main Earth. Bizarro Superboy, aka Boy Bizarro, first made his appearance in Superboy Volume 1, issue number 68, in October 1958. He was created by Otto Binder and George Papp. While witnessing a duplicator ray experiment with Professor Dalton, Superboy was accidentally hit by the duplicator ray that created a faulty copy of him. It had white crystalline skin and had all the powers of Superboy. He escaped and started visiting the places that Superboy went to since he had his memories. He tried to do good to help people with his powers, but failed to do so. People also ridiculed him for his looks and called him a bizarro monster. He eventually fell in love with Melissa, who wasn't afraid of his looks. Superboy discovered him and tried to contain him multiple times, however, he failed. In the end, Bizarro was reduced to dust when he charged at Superboy with full might and died. This version of Bizarro was shown to have all the powers of Superboy and an imperfect speech pattern. However, he didn't think backwards. Bizarro Superman from Pre-Crisis Main Earth. Bizarro Superman made his debut in Action Comics number 254 in July 1959. He was created by Otto Binder and George Papp. On his visit to Smallville, Luthor found Professor Dalton's duplicator ray gun. He tricked Superman into standing in front of the ray by saying that it would cure his kryptonite weakness. Thus was born a new version of Bizarro. Similar to Boy Bizarro, he was also despised and attacked by everyone, even if he tried to help. Bizarro fell in love with Lois, but she rejected. Bizarro shot the duplicator ray at himself for a cure, but created new Bizarro who looked exactly like Superman, but had the mental capacity of Bizarro. When new Bizarro went berserk and attacked, Superman and Bizarro teamed up to fight him. Eventually, new Bizarro disintegrated into dust when he came in contact with a kryptonite cloud. Later, Lois created her Bizarro copy with the duplicator ray, and Bizarro Lois set off to create their own world of love. The Bizarro Superman had all the powers of Superman and an imperfect speech pattern, however, he didn't think backwards. Bizarro Match from Post-New 52 Main Earth. Match made his debut in Suicide Squad Volume 7 issue number 1 in May 2021 and was created by Ron Mars and Ramon Bernardo. The criminal organization known as Agenda attempted to create multiple clones of Connor Kent, aka Superboy, but they wanted the clone to be better and stronger than him in all aspects. These experiments gave birth to Match, a clone of Superboy. But soon he was found to be unstable and slowly turning into a Bizarro with white skin and imperfect speech pattern. It was Amanda Waller's wish for Connor to lead Suicide Squad, but she couldn't persuade him to do so. So, as an alternative, she chose Match. The Agenda serum was administered on Match to temporarily fix his thoughts and speech. Match, believing that he was the original Superboy, led the squad. Later, in a fight with Ultraman, Match's condition began to deteriorate under extreme stress. He was confronted by the original Superboy. Although it took a lot of convincing and fighting around, Match finally settled in with the fact that he was a clone. His speech and thoughts were corrected, but he had the disposition of a Bizarro clone, and he kept helping others with his superpowers. Match had all the powers of Superboy from Main Earth, including tactile telekinesis, but had Bizarro physiology. Subject B-Zero from New 52. Subject B-Zero debuted in Superman Volume 3 issue number 23.1, Bizarro, in November 2013. During a gene splicing experiment with Superman's and a human DNA, Luthor injected the merged DNA into Bobby, his teenage subject for experiment. This turned Bobby into a monster, with fire breath and cryogenic vision, white strong zombie-like skin, and kryptonite immunity. However, Lex discovered that his weakness was sunlight and killed him with a concentrated blast of the same. He collected the residue and started his experiment again to give birth to a perfect Superman soldier, Subject B-Zero. When the life support machine for B-Zero stopped due to power outage during the invasion of Crime Syndicate, Luthor released his unfinished clone, which was loyal to him and pronounced his own name as Bizarro. He died fighting Mazars, an alternate version of Lex Luthor, during the Forever Evil event. He died in the original Luthor's arms. An enraged Luthor fought and defeated Mazars and promised to dedicate his knowledge in creating a better B-Zero. B-Zero has Bizarro physiology. He thinks the opposite and does what he doesn't decide to do. He breathes fire and shoots cryoblasts from his eyes. He has the flight and strength of Superman from Main Earth. He also has immunity toward kryptonite. Bizarro Superman from Earth 29. This version of Bizarro debuted in the Multiversity Guidebook issue number 1 in March 2015 and was created by Grant Morrison. Bizarro served as the leader of Bizopolis and the Unjustice League of Un-America. He was married to Lois and had a son, Bizarro. During a battle with Superman who appeared on Bizarro World, Bizarro's fight was interrupted by Metallo, who captured the entire league. Bizarro liberated his team and wreaked havoc in the city, restoring it to its previous disorganized state. Right after that, Doomsday attacked Bizarro World. Bizarro emerged victorious but became infected by the Doomsday virus that transformed him into Doomzarro. He contaminated Bizarro World, making everything beautiful and woolly, which went against the Bizarro way of living. However, his strong willpower and moral code helped him overcome the virus, and he journeyed to the sun to eliminate it, thereby saving his world. Bizarro was one of many Supermen from alternate universes who were kidnapped by the Prophecy for their powers, but they were ultimately freed by the Justice Incarnate. This version of Bizarro had all the opposite powers of Superman, with the opposite speech patterns, just like Subject B-Zero from Main Earth. Bizarro from Earth 23. This version of Bizarro is from Earth 23 and is an antagonist of President Superman. He made his first appearance in DC's Very Merry Multiverse issue number 1 in February 2021 in the short story President Superman Bizarro Love Holiday. This story was written by David F. Walker and drawn by Gustavo Duarte. President Superman had created a worldwide holiday named the Celebration of Rapport. It was a ceremony of giving and receiving. However, one person hated this, as he had never received anything in his life. It was the Bizarro of this Earth. He attacked President Superman while he was bringing self-stones for everyone. After being beaten black and blue, a little girl helped Bizarro up and gave him a present. Bizarro's mood immediately changed, and he became happy and started celebrating the holiday. This Bizarro too has opposite thought and speech patterns as well as all the opposite powers of Superman, along with super strength. Bizarro from Earth 30. This version of Bizarro first appeared in Superman Red Sun issue number 1 in June 2003 and was created by Mark Miller, Dave Johnson, and Andrew Robinson. In order to fulfill his agenda of creating a new Superman, Luthor planned to bring Sputnik down on Metropolis so that he could gather genetic samples from Superman. The plan succeeded as Superman stopped Sputnik from crash landing and Luthor took the samples. Although Luthor was outed as the mastermind, he was able to create a clone of Superman whom he dubbed a Superior Man. The clone resembled a Bizarro and was born a monster. Luthor ordered the clone to kill Superman after Stalin died. Bizarro and Superman fought over the English Channel. The magnitude of the fight was so destructive that many innocent people lost their lives in London. In order to stop them in their tracks, the Americans launched a nuclear missile. The Bizarro Superman ultimately proved to be better than its other avatars and pushed the missile to space and died when it detonated and saved millions of lives. This Bizarro was similar to other Bizarros of Superman mythos and was equally as powerful as Superman. Superboy from Pocket Universe. This version of Superboy debuted in Legion of Superheroes Volume 3, issue number 23 in June 1986. The story was written by Paul Levitz and drawn by Steve Lytle. After the crisis on Infinite Earths, the main Earth Superboy was expunged from reality. It was established that Superman never costumed up as Superboy in his teens, but Superboy was the one who inspired the formation of the Legion of Superheroes when they traveled back in time and met him. So, Time Trapper developed a plan. Unable to access the dawn of time before the crisis, he created a pocket universe essentially containing only Krypton and Earth. Kal-El from Krypton came and took refuge on Earth and was brought up by the Kents as usual, and donned the garb of Superboy in his teens. Time Trapper routed Legion's time machine to this pocket universe and made them meet his version of Superboy. Meanwhile, he convinced Superboy that the Legion's coming may destroy his reality altogether, so asked him to capture them. While Superboy tried to take over the Legion, they further time jumped and came to the main Earth continuity post-crisis where they met Superman. After a brief fight, Superman and Superboy reconciled and banded against the Time Trapper. Superboy saved his Earth from the pocket universe by letting all the crisis energy course through him and moved his Earth to a safer area of the cosmos. But unfortunately, he was fatally injured. The Legionnaires took him to the 30th century to save him, but he died and was buried there. This version of Superboy had the same powers as the pre-crisis Superboy from main Earth. Herr Superman from Earth 8. This version of Superman debuted in Countdown Presents Lord Havoc and the Extremists issue number 3 in February 2008 and was created by Frank Thierry and Mark Robinson. Herr Superman is yet another Nazi-influenced version of Superman from Earth 8. He acted as a henchman for the Monarch. When Lord Havoc refused Monarch's offer, Herr Superman was ordered to bring Tracer in. Herr Superman ambushed Tracer along with his team of supervillains Green Sinestro, Linda Park version of The Flash, Bat Soldier, Bizarra, Robin Olsen, and Zombie Gordon. Tracer took on all of them alone. However, he was finally subdued. Herr Superman accompanied the Monarch and took over Lord Havoc's forces. They found him sitting in an empty room. When Herr charged at Havoc, Havoc simply impaled him with his shoulder blade and killed him as his powers were nullified in that negation room. Herr Superman had the same powers as that of main Earth Superman, having the same Kryptonian physiology. Superman from Superman Tarzan, Sons of the Jungle. Superman Tarzan, Sons of the Jungle was an Elseworld story published jointly by DC Comics and Dark Horse Comics as part of their intercompany crossover in 1999. This version of Superman was created by Chuck Dixon. Kal-El's ship crash-landed in the jungle and he was brought up by the gorillas. He led his life similar to the main continuity Tarzan and became the super-powered Lord of the Jungle. He came to be called Orgozan and could communicate with all the animals of the jungle. When he grew up, he learned of his Kryptonian heritage from the ship that brought him to Earth and took on the name of Kal-El. However, his powers were not seen as a grace by the jungle tribes and they attacked him. Later, he saved a tribal baby from a giant crocodile and gained respect amongst the jungle tribes. He later discovered his weakness toward kryptonite, which landed in the jungle. He went further and helped defeat an attacking elephant and became friends with the tribe leader. Meanwhile, John Greystoke was on a soul-searching journey as he never felt one with the city he was staying in, so he traveled to the same jungle where Kal-El was, along with Lois Lane and Jane. But Princess La's minions got hold of the kryptonite as well as abducting Lois and Jane. When La tried to weaken Superman and bound him to her submission using the kryptonite, Lois subdued La and saved him. Meanwhile, Greystoke freed Kerchak and brought him to Kal. Kal Greystoke, Lois and Jane bonded after they defeated La and her minions. Kal went to the city where he donned the garb of Superman to help mankind, and Greystoke stayed in the jungles with Jane, where he was called Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle. This version of Superman has the same powers and abilities as the main Earth, Superman. Superman Zero from Rebirth Era Main Earth. Superman Zero debuted in Superman Volume 3, issue number 51 in June 2016 and was created by Peter Tomasi and Mikhail Janin. In an attempt to create their own Superman, China conducted experiments and created Superman Zero. Paul Yang, the physical embodiment of Yang and the twin brother of I Ching, appeared to Superman Zero as a mentor and indoctrinated him on becoming the new Emperor of China and taking over the world. He was a violent being who took on the name of Emperor Superman and started ruling over China with his imperial army of supervillains. He was later defeated by Kong Kenan, the new Superman, along with the Justice League of China. This version of Superman didn't have Kryptonian physiology to begin with, although he showed many powers akin to the main Earth Superman. Kong Kenan from Rebirth Era Main Earth. Kong Kenan debuted in New Superman issue number 1 in July 2016. He was created by Jean Luen Yang and Victor Bogdanovich. Kong Kenan, a 17-year-old high school student from Shanghai, experienced the loss of his mother in a plane crash at a young age. This tragedy caused Kenan to bully Liu Lixin, son of the airline owner, and put a strain on his relationship with his father, who became part of a secretive writers group. One day, while bullying Lixin, they were approached by the American-themed supervillain Blue Condor. Kenan bravely stood up to the villain and protected Lixin, with the act being captured on social media and making Kenan a celebrity. He was then approached by Dr. Omen from the Ministry of Self-Reliance, who selected him as China's new Superman. Kenan was given superpowers from platinum kryptonite infused with the life force of the late New 52 Superman. Paul Yang contacted him and tried to give him the task of becoming a new Emperor Superman. However, he declined and became the disciple of I Ching, the physical embodiment of Yin. He became the savior of China, as well as fought for truth and justice along with the Justice League of China. To begin with, Kong had very little control over his powers, but under the guidance of I Ching, he was able to organize his powers around Bagua, the 8 trigrams of Taoism, into each of his body parts. His invulnerability was organized in his belly, superhuman strength in his fists, super hearing in his ears, X-ray vision in thighs, heat vision in eyes, freeze breath in mouth, flight in his head. Upon synchronizing with the Red Jade Dragon, he was able to use all powers simultaneously. He was made the embodiment of Yin and Yang by I Ching, which made him resistant to magic, and he was able to function separately in his Yin and Yang forms. Sunshine Superman from Earth 47. Little is known about Sunshine Superman's origins. He was the leader of the psychedelic superhero group named Love Syndicate of Dreamworld. He made his first appearance in the pre-New 52 continuity Animal Man issue number 23 and was created by Grant Morrison and Chaz Truog. In this continuity, the Love Syndicate consisted of the Spectre, Uberman, Axis America, the Batman and Robin, Speed Freak, and Magic Lantern. However, in the New 52 continuity, he was shown to hail from Earth 47. In the Multiversity Guidebook issue number 1 by Grant Morrison and Scott Hepburn, the Love Syndicate comprised Sunshine Superman, Brother Power, the Geek, Speed Freak, Magic Lantern, and Shooting Star, with the immortal President Prez Ricard as their financer. Sunshine was one of the Supermen who were abducted by the Prophecy to steal their power, but the Justice Incarnate team intervened and freed them. The powers of this version of Superman were never disclosed. Superwoman from Earth 11. Superwoman made her first appearance in the Multiversity Guidebook issue number 1 in March 2015 and was created by Grant Morrison and Emanuela Lupacchino. Superwoman hailed from Krypton and considered Earth as her new home. Her choice for headquarters was the secluded Isle of Metal in the Bermuda Triangle, which she named the Fortress of Tranquility as a tribute to her Kryptonian roots and to preserve her memories and chronicle the memories of Krypton. She later became a mother to a daughter. She named her daughter Laurel, whom she later trained to be Supergirl. At one point in her career, she and her Justice League comrades Aquawoman, Batwoman, and Wondrous Man were summoned to fight against the Gentry. Eventually, the duo of Superwoman and Batwoman earned the reputation as the world's finest. Unfortunately, Superwoman was among the numerous Supermen kidnapped by the Prophecy for their powers, but was eventually rescued by the Justice Incarnate. Superwoman has got Kryptonian physiology. As a result, she has all the powers and weaknesses of main Earth Superman. Additionally, she's an expert hand-to-hand combatant. Supergirl from Elseworld's Finest. Elseworld's Finest is a one-shot that was released in September 1998. It was written by Barbara Kessel and drawn by Matt Haley. This Earth never had a Superman to begin with. The Justice Society consisted of Wonder Woman, Hawkwoman, Abin Sur, Flash, Canary, and they had Lex Luthor as their friend, mentor, main financier, and guide. On Krypton's destruction, Supergirl was the only one to escape the destruction of Argo City. When her ship crashed on Earth, Wonder Woman and the Justice Society took her in and gave her a family. Then she met Lex, who had lost his parents at a young age. Lex became her friend and mentor. They both shared a very tight bond and always stood up for each other, like a father and a daughter. However, when Lex was kidnapped by the Joker, Supergirl went to Metropolis and discovered that Lex had killed a premature Kal-El and saved his corpse as a trophy. Supergirl and Batgirl defeated Lex and an amped-up Joker and had Lex confess on live television. In the end, she buried Kal-El with a heavy heart. Having a Kryptonian physiology, Supergirl had all of Superman's powers. Super Duper Man. Super Duper Man is a satirical pastiche of Superman whose story was published in Mad Issue number 4 in April 1953. The story was considered to be revolutionary, as it paved the way for more satirical stories like this in the years to come. Keeping in tandem with the original idea of Superman, Clark Kent was shown to be an assistant to a copy boy in the Daily Dirt newspaper. He was a lowly human being who had no morals in life and often used his X-ray vision to look into the ladies' washroom. His main aim was to woo his colleague Lois Payne, who was always irritated and disgusted with him. When kid reporter Billy Spafen transformed into a monster named Captain Marbles, Clark changed to Super Duper Man in order to stop him. However, he was unable to subdue him until he managed to provoke Marbles to punch himself in the head. Marbles was defeated, and Super Duper Man saw this as a chance to lure Lois into falling in love with him. So, he disclosed his secret identity to her, but she rejected him again, calling him a creep. Super Duper Man was an essential parody of Superman that spoofed all his superpowers. So, although he had all the powers of Superman, his abilities were shown at the level of downright tongue-in-cheek comedy. Super Duper Man has been an influence for Alan Moore's Watchmen and Marvel Man later on. Superman from Future's End. This version of Superman made his first appearance in the New 52 Future's End FCBD Special Edition in June 2014. In this alternate time stream, Kal-El was the Superman of his Earth, the savior, protector, and the leader of the Justice League. Here, Batman and Mr. Terrific created Brother Eye, an all-seeing AI that spied on every superhero. But then the AI became sentient and started creating a robotic army on its own. Slowly, it grew and started capturing superheroes and assimilating with them to create superhero-robot hybrids. 35 years in the future, Superman went missing in a battle with Brother Eye and then came back assimilated as a Brother Eye robot hybrid. He got into battle with John Stewart and assimilated him to Brother Eye too. As the forces of Brother Eye were growing in number and were unstoppable, Batman planned to travel to the past and stop Brother Eye to get created. But while he was attempting to time travel, he was critically injured as his arm was ripped off. In his dying moments, Batman gave Terry McGinnis his time-travel gauntlet and sent him back in time to stop Brother Eye. This version of Superman had all the powers of Superman and submitted into complete control of Brother Eye after the assimilation. Karkan the Mighty. Karkan debuted in Superboy Volume 1 issue number 183 in March 1972. In this alternate reality, the rocket that carried baby Kal-El made an unexpected landing in the African jungle instead of the Kent farm. Kina, a female gorilla, took pity on the baby and raised him among her own kind, giving him the name Karkan the Mighty. As he grew older, Karkan's incredible powers emerged, leaving him and Kina bewildered. After investigating the wreckage of his spaceship, he realized that a piece of kryptonite was causing him discomfort. From the remains in his rocket ship, he fashioned a costume featuring an S emblem on his chest, similar to Gorg the snake. Although the other gorillas viewed Karkan as an outcast due to his abilities, he felt that he was part of their group. When he stumbled upon hunters trapping baby gorillas for sale, he rushed to their aid and returned them to their parents. He was later captured by the hunters when the kryptonite from his ship weakened him. Fortunately, a female hunter named Tony connected with him and rescued him. Karkan defeated the hunters by freeing the animals they had taken captive. Despite the gorillas' misunderstanding of his actions, Tony became his friend and together they embarked on a new adventurous journey. This version of Super Baby is a Kryptonian and has all the powers of Superman. Hyperion, from Marvel's Earth 31916. Hyperion debuted in Supreme Power issue number 1 issue in October 2003. He was created by J. Michael Straczynski and Gary Frank. The story of Hyperion from the Marvel Max Earth 31916 was a very direct adaptation of the Superman lore, with the scenarios changed. Hyperion arrived on this Earth in a spaceship as a baby. His arrival was intercepted by the US government, and he was taken in by them. He was named Mark Milton and appointed 2 parents for him who would bring him up with good values. Mark was raised in a very controlled environment where his every move was carefully recorded, maintained, and manipulated. Mark grew up as a loner, never knowing friendship or love or hope. When he grew up, he discovered that everyone and everything he grew up with were just planted in his life, and his whole existence was based on lies. Later, he was used by the government to complete their covert operations. He eventually met Princess Zada, a prehistoric vampire queen who lived on human energy and was highly attracted to her. Eventually, he revolted against the government as he believed he was manipulated his entire life. When the government threatened to reveal his alien origins, he blasted through the North Pole, creating a seismic event. He eventually died at the hands of Cabal. Hyperion had super strength, flight, and invulnerability just like Superman. He had flash vision, similar to Superman's heat vision. He had super hearing and could hear sounds from long distances. The 2-Ton Superman. The 2-Ton Superman debuted in Superman Volume 1, issue number 221 in November 1969. Clark Kent and Lois visited the Alphatron Space Center, where Clark was selected to take part in an experiment involving a Martian landing module. The experiment went wrong and turned Superman extremely obese. He escaped from there and was confronted by his alien friend, Stross. Stross revealed that Superman became obese because he drank the sacred scarlet nectar that had aged badly over 25 years. It had turned to poison and reacted with Superman's antibodies and turned him overweight. Superman built himself a weighing scale and kept doing strenuous jobs in order to lose weight. He stopped a dam from breaking apart, helped the demolition crew, juggled train engines, traveled to the sun, and bounced off meteors. Later, he used alien anti-grav discs to lighten himself so that he can fly as per his actual weight. This is how Superman returned to his former physical shape. There were no extra superpowers that Superman showed in this form. Super Chief from Earth 18. Saganawana, aka the Super Chief, was the Superman of Earth 18. He made his first appearance in the Multiversity Guidebook issue number 1 in March 2015. He was created by Grant Morrison and Andrew Robinson. In the Frontier world, the Time Trapper froze culture and technology in the late 19th century. The resilient and intelligent human beings of this timeline salvaged whatever technology they had and invented air travel and telegraph internet. The Justice League of this Earth were known as the Justice Riders, consisting Batlash, Madame 44, Strongbow, El Diablo, Cinnamon, the Trigger Twins, Firehair, Tomahawk Man, Johnny Thunder, and Pow Pow Smith. They were led by Superman of this Earth, Super Chief. He was one of the Supermen who was abducted by the Prophecy, who wanted to take away his powers, but he was rescued by Justice Incarnate. He got his superpowers from a red Manitou stone that was implanted on his chest. He has super strength and flight. Super Pancho. Super Pancho debuted in Superman Volume 1, issue number 221 in November 1969. Hidden from the world in the remote South Pacific was the forbidden island of Remora, an island of slaves. They grew rare red and blue flowers which were not found anywhere else in the world. In a small hut, a prisoner named Pancho told the stories of Superman and kept up the hope for other prisoners. In an attempt to escape, he dumped containers of the flowers into the sea. Pancho was caught, but the transparent containers rearranged themselves into the shape of Superman and floated in the sea. The soldiers threw Pancho into a pit full of jaguars, but their attack didn't hurt him. In his delusion that he's invulnerable, Pancho wore a Superman costume that was put on a scarecrow and started calling himself Super Pancho. He ridiculed the soldiers and told them that they couldn't harm him. The floating flowers caught Superman's notice and he tracked Pancho down. He exchanged places with Pancho, hid him inside a cave, and did marvelous feats to startle the soldiers. He defeated the dictator and freed the slaves. When Pancho came back to his senses, he helped Superman. Remora became peaceful again and Super Pancho became its protector. He had no superpowers, but he dressed up like Superman and scared the wrongdoers. Super Pancho has no superpowers. He's a normal human being, but he holds up his hope and courage every bit as the original Superman. The Superman Monster. Klaus, aka the Superman Monster, debuted in the Elseworlds story The Superman Monster in October 1999. Victor Luthor was obsessed with his experiments of raising the dead and was expelled from Ingolstadt. Conniving as he was, he walked out of his engagement with Eloise Edge when he came to know that he wouldn't be able to use Eloise's wealth for his own benefits. However, he discovered a rocket ship with the corpse of infant Kal-El in it. He read the journals of Jor-El and understood his intent. He constructed a revival matrix from the technology. He robbed graves and created a body and gave it life through the matrix. The result was a superpowered monster who believed Lex to be his father. In his disgust, Luthor forsook him. Superman then saved Luthor from a fire in the lab, but was brought down by a lightning strike. He saved Eloise from a carriage accident and gained her compassion, but the town people attacked him out of disgust. He wandered to the isolated farm of Johann and Martha Kant, who took him in and named him Klaus. He helped Johann on the farm and learned the ways of normal life. He started becoming more human. In an attempt to kill Klaus, Luthor set fire to the Kant farm. Jonah died of a heart attack, but Klaus saved Martha. Later, Luthor shot at Klaus, but the bullet bounced off him and killed Eloise. Luthor subdued Klaus with kryptonite and resurrected Eloise with the revival matrix. Klaus intervened and caused a fire and escaped with Eloise, promising to help her accustom to this life. Luthor later died of hypothermia while searching for Klaus's Fortress of Solitude. Klaus appeared in his full glory, completely healed, and flew away with Luthor's body. Klaus was a monster to begin with, but down the line he developed all the powers and abilities of Superman. Jordan Elliott from Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Jordan Elliott made an appearance in Action Comics issue number 583 in September 1986 and was created by Alan Moore, Kurt Swan, and George Perez. Superman was the unchallenged champion of Earth 423, but one day Toyman and Prankster coaxed Superman's secret identity out of his friend, Pete Ross, and then tortured and killed him. They went further and exposed Superman's identity on television. Then Bizarro, who's generally a harmless supervillain, went on a killing massacre and then committed suicide. Then an army of Metallos attacked Daily Planet. After thwarting the Metallos, Superman took his close friends Lois, Perry, Jimmy, and Lana to the Fortress of Solitude to keep them safe. The Legion of Superheroes arrived and gifted Superman a Phantom Zone projector, but the next morning the fortress was attacked by the Legion of Supervillains. Lana and Jimmy were killed in the battle, and Krypto died, saving Superman from Kryptonite Man. In the end, Superman realized that these were all doings of Mxyzptlk. He was bored of playing the playful imp and decided to turn on to a complete supervillain mode. Superman kills Mxyzptlk with the help of the Phantom Zone projector. Disheartened that he had taken a life, he thought he didn't deserve the powers anymore, so he depowered himself by exposing himself to gold kryptonite. He wandered off to the Arctic wasteland to die. But actually Superman was still alive. Although depowered, he married Lois Lane and had a child named Jonathan, who had superpowers. And he changed his name to Jordan Elliott and was leading a normal life with his family. This Superman had the same powers as that of the main Earth, Superman. Superman from JLA, Created Equal. This version of Superman debuted in the Elseworld story Created Equal, released in 2000, and was written by Fabian Nicieza and drawn by Kevin Maguire. During the event of the Fall, a catastrophic storm swept the Earth, bringing a deadly plague that wipes out the majority of the male population. Superman, the legendary hero, and Lex Luthor, his arch-nemesis, were the only two men to make it through. Superman's Kryptonian DNA made him immune to the plague, while Luthor sheltered himself from the storm's radiation within his battle armor. The world leaders selected Themyscira as the new capital, where the next generation of male children would be raised. Adam Kent, the first boy born after the storm, was the offspring of Superman and Lois Lane. Due to Superman's DNA, many more male children were born with Kryptonian abilities. However, with the fear of carrying the plague, Superman decided to go into exile to protect his son. Years later, Luthor brainwashed the male children of Themyscira to rebel against the female leaders of the world. Superman was forced to return and stop him, even if it meant going against his own children. During his exile, he discovered a cure for the plague, which worked after Luthor tried to kill him with kryptonite, weakening his immune system enough for the cure to be effective. Superman fought Luthor, and in the battle, Luthor died of a heart attack. The female heroes pledged to raise the children responsibly in the future and keep them away from outside influence. This Superman had the same powers and abilities as the main Earth, Superman. Clark Kentson. This Superman made his debut in the Elseworld story Superman's Metropolis, released in 1996. He was created by Jean-Marc Lofficier and Randy Lofficier. In this alternate future, the city of Metropolis was starkly divided between the wealthy upper classes and the struggling lower classes. Clark Kentson, the son of the great architect John Kent, became aware of the inequality after meeting Lois Lane. He joined the workers to gain a better understanding of their hardships and asked his father to make changes, but was met with resistance. In reality, the city was controlled by the evil scientist Luthor, who had killed Martha, the woman both he and John loved, and hypnotized John into obedience. Luthor saw Lois as a potential leader and created a robotic duplicate named Futura to lead the workers to their downfall. Clark discovered his powers and found out that he was from another planet and was adopted. His memories were altered by Luthor, who had found out about his powers while attempting to kill him and his mother. As Futura led the workers to their death, Clark stepped in as the prophesied savior and defeated Futura, before ultimately killing Luthor in battle. John gave his life to save Clark. In the end, Clark assumed the moniker Superman and together with Lois became the new rulers of a united metropolis. This version of Superman has the same powers as the main Earth Superman, as he's a Kryptonian. However, he wasn't shown to display all of his Kryptonian powers in the story. Superman from War of the Worlds. This Superman debuted in the Elseworlds story Superman War of the Worlds, released in 1998. It was written by Roy Thomas and drawn by Michael Lark. The Superman of this Earth landed in 1938 and was raised by the Kents. Similar to his Golden Age counterpart, Clark was taught to hide his powers as he'd be feared, but eventually he got over that philosophy. He found a job at the Daily Planet as a reporter while saving the world as its champion, Superman. Everything went as usual until the fateful day when the Martians attacked. Lois was captured and Superman was imprisoned with their heat ray after a vicious fight. Luthor was helping the Martians as he wanted global control. However, he had a change of heart when the Martians no longer needed him and focused on Superman. Accompanied with Lois, Luthor freed Superman, whom the Martians were planning to devour so that they could become immune to Earth's bacteria. Superman fought a great battle in Metropolis and succumbed to death from his injuries. Luthor destroyed the rest of the Martians with the help of gathered forces around the world and erected a statue of Clark in his memory. This Superman had exactly the same abilities as main Earth Superman. Superman Distant Fires. This version of Kal-El appeared in the Elseworlds story Superman Distant Fires, released in 1998. It was written by Howard Chaykin and drawn by Jill Kane. In this reality, Earth was ravaged by nuclear wars. Normal animals were mutated into giant monsters, and there was death all around. Superman thought himself to be the sole survivor. Haunted by the visions of his dead friends, Superman left Metropolis and wandered west. He was happy to discover that there were other survivors who were now being led by Wonder Woman. He eventually fell in love with her, and they married and had a son whom they named Bruce. A jealous Billy Batson from the group of survivors moved further west and banded with Metallo and other mutants and came back to take on Superman. A great battle ensued where Billy killed Wonder Woman. Martian Manhunter perished in the battle too. Billy called upon the power of Shazam, but since he was a killer and was unworthy, a lightning bolt struck and killed him instead. Earth already became unstable from this battle. So, Superman built an energy rocket ship using a Green Lantern power ring and sent his son Bruce to outer space to survive, while he perished with the dying Earth. This version of Superman had all the powers of Superman from main Earth. Super Demon from Earth 13. Super Demon debuted in the Multiversity Guidebook issue number 1 in March 2015 and was created by Grant Morrison, Fraser Irving, and Jai Lee. Etrigan was rocketed to Earth from the doomed planet Camelot. On Earth, he took on the moniker of Super Demon and fought against the forces of darkness by the name of Merlin, with the League of Shadows as his aide. He'd been captured by a group of vampires from an alternate Earth, but managed to defeat them and free his league. When the vampires returned, Etrigan faced off against their leader, the vampire Ultraman. Etrigan was also targeted by Prophecy, who sought to steal his powers, but he was won by Justice Incarnate and helped defeat Prophecy alongside other Supermen. Etrigan was a powerful force for good empowered by magic from hell, always ready to defend his world from evil invaders. Super Demon is bestowed with the magical powers from hell. He has overnatural strength and speed. He has hellfire vision like Superman's heat vision, and emits hellfire from his eyes to destroy his opponents. He's able to spit lava blasts from his mouth.
Repel any weapon on Earth while crawling.
Superman of Tokyo. Kenta, aka the Superman of Tokyo, debuted in DC Nation animated shorts in 2012. In this reality, Superman bestowed his powers to a baby named Kenta while he was dying during a monster attack in Tokyo. Even when the babysitter Jemmy suggested that she'd like to be the successor for Superman, she was denied. As such, Kenta became the new Superman of Tokyo. Kenta defeated the robot when he was thrown at the robot by Jemmy. His mother was the reporter who was investigating Superman. Although Kenta embraced her mother as Superman, she couldn't make out the true identity of Superman. Kenta had all the powers of Superman. His description was a childish take on Superman's powers as described since the Golden Age. Crawling faster than a bullet train, able to leap tall buildings in a single crawl, powerful enough to repel any weapon on Earth while crawling. Majestros from Wildstorm Universe. Majestros, aka Mr. Majestic, debuted in Wildcats issue number 11 in June 1994. He was created by H.K. Projer and Jim Lee. Mr. Majestic was a Cherubim warlord hailing from the planet Kera. He was one of the few fertile Cherubims and fathered 2 children, Kanisha and Magistrate, with Coda warrior Lady Zana. During the Cherubim Demonite War, he was trapped on Earth of Wildstorm Universe and devoted centuries of his life to fighting for justice and revealing himself as a post-human hero to the public. His ways of punishment were more straightforward and militant. He joined the government-sponsored Team 1, but a fateful incident forced him to take the life of his teammate and friend, John Colt, in order to save New York City from a nuclear attack. Heartbroken, he sought solitude in the Arctic. To establish a base for himself, he carved out Mount Rushmore, creating the Rushmore Sanctuary. Although he considered humans a lower life form, he had a romantic relationship with a woman named Rebecca during the Roman Empire. He was the leader of the superhero team named Wildcats. Magestros had powers similar to Superman, including flight, superhuman strength, heat vision, microscopic vision, Arctic breath, regenerative healing, and he can shoot energy blasts from his hands. Additionally, he's a genius and skilled combatant. Centaur Superman. The Centaur Superman appeared in the Elseworlds story Whom Gods Destroy in 1996. It was written by Chris Claremont and drawn by Dusty Abel. In this reality, Superman never grew old. He held on to his youth due to his unique Kryptonian physiology. The Third Reich still held their rule over Europe. Superman and Lois traveled to German territory where their friend Lana was imprisoned, only to find the Reich was being ruled by Adonis, and Artemis and Athena were in opposition. Wonder Woman had submitted to the Reich after betraying Paradise Island. Lois was transformed into the new Wonder Woman when Athena sacrificed her powers during a battle with the German army. But later the Greek sorceress Circe changed Superman into a mindless centaur. After being turned into a centaur, Superman led a group of other centaurs for a wild night out. They rampaged through multiple European small towns and indulged in alcohol and partying. In this form, Superman was unstoppable and acted like a free animal, not having any regard for anyone else. However, Lana Lang uses her new psychic gifts to connect to the centaur Superman, and then they go to the goddess Hecate for help. Hecate helped in curing Superman, but instead changed Superman into a woman as a punishment for his crimes against women. Good riddance. The centaur Superman showed no traits of the classic Superman. He was like an animal that had been freed from all bondages. Captain Carrot from Earth 26. Captain Carrot debuted in the Multiversity issue number 1 in October 2014. He was created by Grant Morrison and Ivan Rice. In the cartoon world of Earth 26, Rodney Rabbit was a mild-mannered cartoonist. He changed into the superhero named Captain Carrot when he ate one of his cosmic carrots. He was in charge of saving the cartoon world from the constant threats of cartoon supervillains. He was aided by his fantastic Zoo Crew, analogue of the Justice League. When Gentry attacked the multiverse, Carrot was recruited into the House of Heroes and he became a core member of the Justice League Incarnate. As a member of the House of Heroes, he greeted other heroes, including Superman of Earth 23, to rescue the Monitor, Nyx Yuotan. He's got powers that are analogous to main Earth Superman, like flight, super strength, and invulnerability. Additionally, since he's from the cartoon world, his body functions are as per cartoon physics. Even if he's pressed flat or his body parts are severed, he survives and returns back to normal. If he doesn't eat his cosmic carrots for a specific period, his powers fade away. Super Squirrel from Earth C-. Super Squirrel debuted in Captain Carrot and his amazing Zoo Crew issue number 14 in April 1983. Rocketed from the planet of Chipton, Super Squirrel adapted to his newfound life on Earth C-, which was populated by anthropomorphic animals. He lived in the city of Metropolis and was the leader of JLA, which stood for Just a Lotta Animals. His main archenemy is Lex Lemur. He used to imprison his enemies in the Elephantum Zone. He held his head high above his shoulders and had a case of bad ego. He was even jealous of the attraction between Wonder Wabbit and Captain Carrot. Super Squirrel has similar powers and weaknesses as that of Superman. Marvelous verdict. Even if he has the powers of a god, Superman will always be the shy farmer boy that he was brought up to be. He'll always be Kansas or Smallville for his lady love, Lois Lane. He will always be our hope in the darkest of times, a thought so powerful that he can light up even the bleakest of days with his sheer presence and his angelic smile. Rest assured, my super friends, we'll keep our watch, and as soon as any new version of Superman shows up, we'll be bringing them to our channel. Keep liking, sharing, and subscribing, and let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Until next time, up, and away!